else instead of me always seems to know the way. Then I look at you and the world's all right with me. Just one look at you and I know it's gonna be a lovely day. When the day that lies ahead of me seemed impossible to face, and when someone else instead of me always seems to know the way, then I look at you and the world's all right with me. I just one look at you and I know it's gonna be a lovely day.
Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed. No more backward thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There's so much hatred, war and poverty. Wake up all the teachers, time to teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say. 'Cause they're the ones who's coming up and the world is in their hands. So when you teach the children, teach them the very best you can. Just let it be. Na 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 na. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it now, just you and me. Wake up all the doctors, make the old people well. They're the ones who suffer and who catch all the hair. But they don't have so very long before their judgment day. Make them happy before they pass away. Wake up all the builders, time to build a new land. creed or color. Everybody, we need each other. Wake up, everybody. Well, you see, we need wake up, everybody. We need no more sleeping in bed, no more backward thinking, time for thinking ahead. Wake up, all your teachers, start to teach a new way. They're the ones that suffer, mention every day. Teach the children, teach the babies, teach the babies, teach the children, teach the children, teach the babies, teach the children, teach the babies. They're the one who's coming out. And the world, and the world. When you speak, confusion fades. Just a word, and suddenly I'm not afraid. 'Cause you speak, and freedom reigns. There is hope in every single word you say. Don't I wanna miss one word you speak? 'Cause everything you say is life to me. get you in a good mood. Let the Christmas get you feeling fine. Put on your dancing shoes and come with me tonight. We're gonna rock till broad daylight. Make the Christmas get you in a good mood. Make the Christmas get you feeling fine. Put on your dancing shoes and come with me tonight. Gonna rock till broad daylight. Yeah. If your shoes start squeezing you, just kick them off, that's fine. Nothing should stop your feet from dancing. Come on, it's Christmas time, yeah. Make the Christmas get you in a good mood. Make the Christmas get you feeling fine. Put on your dancing shoes and come with me tonight. We'll all rock till broad daylight. Yeah, yeah. Let the Christmas get you in a good mood. Let the Christmas get you feeling fine. Put on your dancing shoes and come with me tonight. We'll all rock till broad daylight. If your shoes start squeezing you, just kick them off, that's fine. Nothing should stop your feet from dancing. Come on, it's Christmas time, yeah. Let the Christmas get you in a good mood. Let the Christmas get you feeling fine. Put on your dancing shoes and come with me tonight. We're gonna rock.
Good morning and welcome to the Morning Connection. This is Thursday, the 16th of December 2021, and we are so pleased to be coming to you live from the beautiful gardens of the Ligony Club. You know, the early morning light and the clouds just with a tinge of rose gold on the horizon is just so beautiful and just inspires you to be poetic. But where it's a bit overcast, not too much to make it dreary, just enough to give you a very nice, cool look for the morning. And we're always so pleased to be outdoors. I mean, we make a sacrifice to be outdoors. Most of the sacrifice is made by the callers who don't get a chance to speak with us as much as they do when we're in studio, but still. For the two presenters here, it's well worth it to be outside. So good morning, Kingston. Good morning, Jamaica. Good morning to the people in St. Elizabeth especially. Good morning to my friend, the blind man, who, by the way, we have the radio. I'm trying to get it sent down by courier, but I just need to be sure about the proper name and location because I will send it to the Grange Hill Post Office. So good morning to you, anybody who knows and who's listening and can send us a note by WhatsApp or by whatever means. I want to get it off so that he has his radio in time for Christmas and certainly in time to listen to us on Monday morning, God willing. Good morning, Pastor Percy. I neglected my manners. I should have greeted you earlier.
I must tell you, if you've not seen us online, we are perfectly Christmassy. She's in all red.
Sounds like one of us is Santa Claus.
Yeah.
He's in elf green and I'm in Santa red.
So, you know, I'm the elf and she is Santa Claus. All
I'm in my
decked out
Santa red.
beautifully.
Yeah, red and white.
But
Yes,
it
the
is
cameras are
good to
on
be
now.
alive, yo.
And good morning to the producer, and Andre is with us this morning with Tiffy out of the studio. Lloyd is doing duty at the studio. So good morning to the folks back in the studio. Thank you so much for bearing with us as we get everything set up. We're really very pleased to be here. This is the first of 2 Christmas shows.
Good morning. Good morning to Catherine.
And good morning to the staff who are out early at JB's Urban Pub at the Ligani Club. Hi, Catherine. And hi, new Catherine. Hi, Catherine 1 and 2. I will have to get the other name soon. And of course, we're very grateful to the Ligani Club for accommodating us. You know, we get here in the early morning when it's still a little dark, and we set up and we do mic checks and so on. And I tell you, we've been doing this now for probably about 6 or so weeks, about our 6th time, and we have not had a single complaint, not from guests, not from staff, which either means they're very accommodating or we've been very good, or if it's both, you know, it's a blessing.
That means we'll get a Christmas present from Santa.
No calling. There'll be no calling our stock in our stockings.
Yes.
We've been good.
Yeah,
We've been nice, not naughty. So yeah, those are the pleasantries. Good morning to all of you, to our listeners on air. We thank you so much for always being present for us. We know every now and then a transmitter goes down or something happens, but you know, we're using wireless technology, and this is really now an act of faith because we can't see what is going on, and occasionally there are disruptions. So I know you forgive us for it, and we thank you for that. To our listeners who are on YouTube or Twitch or any of the other, I think we're streaming live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch. For Twitch, it's Lola99. It's up. I'm actually using that one right now. I'm going to switch to YouTube in a bit because we haven't been giving our YouTubers as much love as we normally do. I'm not even sure why, come to think of it. It's not for lack of love in the heart, is it, Percy?
Some of the times we become so engaged with what is in front of us.
Yeah, that
and
we're not.
Be monitoring what's happening on YouTube, the comment, because you usually have a very lively chatter
Oh, yes.
and very significant points being made on
YouTube.
Yeah, man. So
Yeah, but we're gonna do better. I make that commitment. It's not a New Year's commitment. It's a right now commitment. We're gonna do better today. Thank you to our online family for staying with us, for following the conversation and contributing, so powerfully to the issues that we're discussing.
and what I'm discovering too is that even some of the times the online family knows about things that are happening before us, and they point us to hello, did you see that?
Yeah.
Because it looks like they're into all of the media that comes out of Jamaica. I'm not talking about the mainstream like the Gleaner or RGR News Group or Power, all of those people. You have a lot of journalists. What the internet has done, it has opened the avenues for so many more
Right.
journalists who are online. But you know, as we begin today, Psalms 119 verse 1, and this is the Living Bible, it says, your faithfulness extends to every generation. Like the earth you created, it endures by your degree. For everything serves your plan. And the person says, even as we had our time of prayer yesterday morning, we're in a mode of giving thanks, and you're going through you are going through, sister. I know you're going through a lot of things, but you're going through, and you, as you say, you fight from a place of victory. And he says it's easy to get frustrated when things take much longer than we think they should. We all face delays, betrayals, heartaches. A co-worker lied about something about me, and it set us back. We asked that, why that? And he goes back. But it said, everything serves God's plan. He didn't say just the good things. Sometimes you are promoted, getting good breaks, and things change in your favor. What we don't always realize is the negative things we experience are serving His plan. Being developed, getting stronger through it. Without it, you won't be prepared for what's coming. I like that. When you understand that everything serves His plan, you won't live frustrated by things that aren't fair and stretch over things you don't like. You realize that it wasn't a coincidence that person walked away that moved them out so you could move forward. It was serving His plan. And the person says, the whole thing about if I'm in it, I'm in the red. You ever hear that expression here?
What?
The expression if
If I'm in it, I'm in the.
No. it says if something is happening and we know that God is I'm in the red, in the middle of it, I'm not running away from it. One of the worst things that can happen to you as an individual is to be where God is not.
Where God was.
Yes, where God was.
No, we're going to have another conversation because God is everywhere.
No, where God was not. No, I mean, God is new things. And you understand what I'm saying? God is new.
I know, I'm
creating a
teasing
new
you.
thing. Because God is everywhere, but some of the time...
You're talking about old revelation. When you're stuck in, God is constantly moving. And that's something a lot of us think that it is a static environment. And because we say God is, but we forget that God is, He was, and evermore shall be.
Yeah.
So
Yesterday, today, and forever.
right.
Yeah.
So it's a mind bending exercise to sort of wrap our minds around this concept of God who is always current but is always future. In other words, He doesn't exist in the time continuum that we absolutely that we inhabit. So for us, we live in a linear world.
Yeah.
Days flow in a sequential frame.
He does.
It's not like that for God. It's always a circle, always an orb, always. It's always everything, always. And sometimes, it's difficult for human beings to understand how that relates to the things that are happening to us. So I've had my moments, absolutely. I've had my moments. Earlier, you and I were talking about when we pray and we don't see the results that we desire, and we become frustrated because, of course, on day one, we and God set a plan. Most times we set a plan and we lay it out to God.
I will invite him for coming.
I will invite Him to endorse it. And if plan is right, and you get confirmation from many places that the plan is right, and then as you are executing the plan, you begin to meet a level of resistance which suggests that you're moving against powerful forces, and the forces are so powerful that you begin to mistake them for God asserting His will and telling you you should be going in a contrary direction, and then you go back into prayer and you become confused, and a lot of times we get disappointed, frustrated, we abandon a particular course, or some of us even try to abandon God. I say try, because how can you abandon what is not really under your control? And it's a very frustrating experience. I've been there many times, and I'm sure I'll get there again, because that's another part of it. You are no use in this universe if you become stale and static and unproductive and ungiving. So you have to keep living and trying and moving. When you no longer have it to do that, that's called dead. Have I defined dead? That's called dead.
Yes.
And you may be dead and walking around and think that you're not stinking up the place, but you really are, because when things die, the organism decay and it gives off an odor, and the odor is reflected in the bad relationships, the fact that you don't get along well with people, that things don't seem to be flourishing under your hand, because out of death, the only time you get life out of death is after you've buried. So if you're still above ground walking around but you're really dead, there's nothing good gonna come out of you until somebody bury you, and you can until no man, you're dead already. You're still walking. Many things are dead and moving above ground without the acknowledgement of death. The minute you tell them they're dead, sometimes they just lay down. Then you have an opportunity for rebirth and renewal. But you've taken me in a whole new direction.
No,
Good morning
I did not a new
to
direction.
Grifkem. Queens, New York is in the house. Always loved New York. I don't think the day will come when New York won't have a special place in my heart and my thoughts. So good morning to Grifkem, who is online early. We are online. We are firing on all of our platforms this morning. The team is looking triumphant in the corner. We're on YouTube, like in 3 different places. and we're on Twitch, which is what the youngsters use, Twitch TV. And we are on Facebook. If Facebook is your thing, we're live on Facebook. And we're on the Best FM channel live, as well as the Best FM YouTube channel. Right, good. So we're everywhere this morning. Wow, we got to do something with that. All right, so for this morning, we are going to complete the discussion we started yesterday, looking at a major sustainable development goal as it relates to our environment. I started by looking at the constitutional right, the provisions in the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms that speaks to every person in Jamaica, citizen or not, having that entitlement to preserve and to protect the environment for themselves and for future generations to come. Pastor has said repeatedly that it is the obligation of today's father to lay up stores for his grandchild. And this is so because every father today would have been provided for by their grandfather. So it is intergenerational in a deep way. You think beyond the needs of the child who's on your knee right now, who came of your body. You're looking, can you imagine? You have a 2-year-old child on your knee, but you're planning for his child?
Come on.
Because
That's how
his
God is.
needs have been taken care of by your father.
Come on.
And just the place of the father in that dynamic is just incredible. And please remember that on this show, father means provider and source. It's not a gender-based discussion about father. So if you're sitting there and you, mommy, is mother and father to all, in your role as father, you're not left out of the obligation to plan for your grandchild. And if you, dear father, sitting and there's no mommy to carry the slack and you're doing the 2 jobs and you're thinking, oh, my hands are full, how can I even think about a grandchild? It is still your obligation to look beyond your immediate needs and circumstances and plan into the future. So that being the background, we're very honored. Pastor Percy has leveraged his tremendous network and plucked out Professor Clayton to be our guest this morning. He'll be with us on phone. We're going to have an opportunity to speak with him. Yesterday, I began going through the number 8 of an 8-part series he did on how Jamaica can prepare itself for a better life in the future. He spoke about the necessity to begin the adaptations to the built environment, by which, of course, I mean housing developments, roads and bridges, social infrastructure such as schools, hospitals, the environment that is going to support the life that we envisage for the future. He made specific reference of how the various changes in the climate conditions are going to create a more crowded world and a push to persons moving into the more temperate zones of the world, which of course includes where we are, the Caribbean. The Caribbean has always been a favorite. I have, of course, expressed my own view that the Caribbean will continue to dominate as a place for rest and renewal. So if you're looking at making an investment in the hospitality sector, that's where you can place yourself. We know from past experience that it is the human capital which is the greatest source of growth and prosperity in days to come. To my mind, it has always been so, but we are at an age where everyone is recognizing it as such. And so investment in certain social services and so on, you can't miss if you do those. And by that, in health, in education and training, and in what other social service can we think of? Any of the welfare-oriented capacity building type
I
businesses.
think of it in another way. It goes back to the heart of where we started in the beginning. God created man. He put it in the center of it, and he was the center of what he needed to do to accomplish in the world. And that has policy. That was the policy of God, if you are thinking of it in terms of policy implication, in terms of
you're
so
going back to the Dominion mandate.
dominion, and we're moving to redemption, and the whole thing that we are stewards of the earth, and you have to ensure that the man is empowered to be the best steward that he can be.
So you're confirming that it was always so
Yeah,
that man,
always so.
that human beings, we are the greatest investment.
And God made the greatest investment
Yeah.
in us.
And there's one of my favorite pastors, Pastor Alf Lukau, likes to say that you are God's greatest investment. That's you, not your brother or your sister or you. You must see yourself as God's greatest investment.
And when you recognize that, it transforms how you see, how you act, how you behave in terms of the world. That God has everything invested in you, so you have to, as somebody say, you have to step up to the greatness that is in you.
And make sure that he gets a return on his investment. So that's our guest. Professor Clayton will be our second guest. He's a professor he lectures on sustainable development.
Can I give up?
In the if you could share it with me, I'd prefer that because it looks longish.
But he is just the
Go ahead.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
the Alcon Professor of Caribbean Sustainable Development at the University of the West Indies.
That's
And he's a visiting professor all over the world at different universities. Here in the
Is he
Caribbean-
Jamaican?
No, I think he's Scottish in terms of his origin.
Okay.
Edinburgh. So, at University of Edinburgh, University of Technology, Jack Gordon Institute of Public Policy in the International.
All right. I'm sure he's a fascinating man, but Lord Percy, you're making sound quite boring.
No, but he's
Don't
also-
bother read no more.
No, but but in recognition of what he has done, he's received the Order of Distinction.
This is a morning show, people are already sleepy.
Is that true?
Yes, they just wake up and
But-
they'll
but-
go back to bed in a
No,
heartbeat.
but,
If we don't-
but in terms of his local thing, so he's international. But he
Listen,
stays
I'm going to let him
locally.
tell us a little bit about himself because I can tell you that
Because
if
rule of
I
law.
if I rely on you
No, but
to
that-
get
but I'm
me
saying
interested.
But he is climate change.
All right, let's shift to the lady that you know very well, Sarah Walker. Our first guest is actually Sarah Walker.
She comes in at 7.
How do you pronounce her name? Is it Sarah or Sarah?
Sarah.
Which one is that for you?
Sarah.
All right, so she's
That's
Sarah.
alright. You know that was
Is
the
she
thing.
99 years old?
No, she's
I'm kidding.
But she is woman of
So
God.
today's guests are both specially selected by Pastor Palmer, for which I'm very grateful because we love having persons to share with us on Thursday. I don't think we'll actually have anyone coming in to be with us at the table. Professor Clayton is who should have come, but I think Percy lost him somewhere to get him by phone. But tell us about Sarah because she's the second person.
I first
and-
encountered her as an individual through church, but we had a very unfortunate incident that was in 1996 where our young people were gathered, having a party, and gunmen invaded the place. Somebody was shot, but somebody died as a result of the incident. And it just moved her heart, and from then she became even more closer attached to us because she was always asking about the young people, how they were covering, and she would support them. She's a Jamaican, but she's Jamaican American, meaning that she was born here. She migrated as a younger person, got married there, had a child, worked administratively. But she tells me, just one day she says, but I know so many people who are in need in Jamaica. And out of her own resources, she started collecting stuff. And she started with one single barrel where she would have the barrel, ship it, and then she would distribute it to persons in need. That has mushroomed, and recently she allowed for what I call it the Christmas come early in the lives of Jamaicans, where she set up a foundation which is called God Ever Touching Humanity. And out of that, she's been ministering in communities through our church, but then she has linkages all over Jamaica, in Clarendon, in places like Trenchtown, Rollington Town, Waterhouse, Olympic Way, Greenwich Farm, and then Clarendon and places, because people have heard of her and have reached out, and she's just been ministering hope to
What's the problem?
different individuals. So we really appreciate her for what she has done. Food stuff, clothing, shoes, baby stuff. She brings it and she gives away all of these packages just to bless people, and she does it out of her own resources. And so she's somebody that we salute today who never said, I can't do anything. You know, I'm not a Jamaican, say, because I don't have resources. Because she's not rich, as we would say, or wealthy in Jamaica. It's out of her means that she just trusts, and God have added persons to her and her family who support her in this endeavor. So we look forward to just chatting with Sarah Walker this morning online. She's returned to the US of A, and just to tell us some more about who she is and why she does what she does. Yeah.
Many times we invite persons to participate in the discussion based on the high level at which they're operating. And I mean high level in the natural world, of course, because there are two ways of measuring effectiveness. For me, well, I guess for everybody, you know that you can be carrying out some very mundane tasks in the natural world, meaning you're employed as a janitor, or you're the one cleaning up the building, you're in the service sector, you're not in the boardroom making decisions and allocating budgetary resources, or you're not speaking in parliament and setting policy for a nation to follow. You are just a cog in a very big wheel. But in the spiritual realm, in the realm where matters are truly decided and where things happen, you are an intercessor of great power, and you're doing major things. And so in the spiritual world, you're operating at a very high level, but in the natural world. And the pattern for that, of course, where it's Christmas time, so let's refer to the pattern. The pattern for that is, of course, Christ, who came, born in a manger, not in a palace. Grew up in humble situation, not in the lap of luxury. But his purpose was so great, so massive, that here we are thousands of years later still being impacted by it and talking about it. So he came in the natural at a very low level, but in the spiritual operated at the highest level imaginable. So it is with us here on this show. We try to pick from both worlds, those who are operating at a very high level spiritually, and those who are operating at a very high level in the natural. So we had like a Mr. Courtney Campbell, not to say he may be both, I don't know. But Sarah is coming to us from a place that is familiar and relatable to all of us. And that is my interest in having her participate in our discussion and exposing her thought processes to you, because you might be one of those persons at a very low level in the natural world, wanting to do big things spiritually, meaning things that change lives and impact people. And when you dead and gone, the child that you gave a book is the prime minister.
Can you imagine that?
That still counts. All right, we're taking our break now because it is 7 a.m. and you are with the Morning Connection. We're getting ready to go deep with you, so please stay with us. We will be right back.
Let us give thanks, give thanks. I give thanks for the falling rain. I give thanks for this another day. Yes, I give thanks to the Father is Most High. I give thanks every day and every night. Each day I trod and hurt. I see men, they pass me by with expressions on their faces as if to say, I know not where I'm going. Just you walk on with no thoughts of negativity, and no evil can befall you. Just as you trust in your Father, He's thanks together as one. Let's join hands. Let's see that work be done. Let's join hands in one love, one unity. We'll be fruitful, forever we'll be free. Each day I trot the hurt, I see men, they pass me by with expressions on their faces, as if to say, I know not where I'm going. Just to walk on with no thoughts of negativity, and no evil can befall you. Just let your trust in your Father. Just another He's our guide, our true Creator. So let no evil man lead you astray. Just keep on fighting for better days. Better days. Let's give thanks for the falling rain. Let's give thanks for this another day. Let us give thanks to the Father is Most High. Let's give thanks every day and every night. Say, I give thanks for the falling rain. I give thanks for this another day. Yes, I give thanks to the Father is Most High. I give thanks every day and every night. I give thanks for the falling rain. I give thanks for this another day. Yes, I give thanks to the Father is Most High. I give thanks every day and every night. Yes, let's give thanks for the falling rain. Let's give thanks for this another day. Only you can change this cold heart of mine. I don't know why, but your love won't leave me alone. Maybe it was my pride that made me decide, or maybe it was love, or all the tears you made me cry. Now I'm back in your loving arms again. I don't wanna leave you, girl. Can't take the sorrow or the pain. 'Cause a little rain sometimes makes you wanna feel the sunshine. When love is on your mind, the world feels so kind. I wanna give you my love, 'cause you're so special to me.
Good morning and welcome back to the Morning Connection. Your hosts, Minette Lawrence and Percival Palmer, coming to you live from the Ligonier Club, where, can I tell you, the sun is right in my eyes. Not words I expect to hear.
There's a
On
song
the
with that, you
Morning
know.
Connection. When the sun hits your eyes. But of course, we are here courtesy of the Ligonier Club. We have their banner in the backdrop. You can see beautiful rooms. One of the things I don't often mention is that the Ligonier Club also has rooms, because, you know, the idea of a private members club was that for you, and let's harken back now to the days of old, when this club didn't have people like me, either because I'm black or because I'm female, but, you know, when they came into the city from the rural towns, they would come to their club and be able to overnight and conduct business and so on. So that is the tradition of the club, to be able to host its members and be a home away from home as you are doing busy in the city. We have sought to continue that tradition and to ensure now that all Jamaicans have access to the same kind of amenities. It is truly a home away from home. There's a private members lounge where you can take your meals in private and be away from the restaurant. Though I tell you, JD's Urban Pub is an excellent restaurant. They also provide the food and beverage services in the private members lounge. There are 38 rooms, a few suites included, which were renovated some years ago under the watchful eye of producer husband, who was club president at the time, and yours truly, who was chairman of the development committee. So we know and can speak for the quality of the rooms and the service that you will get here. And of course, full gymnasium, a swimming pool of a very respectable size, 6 tennis courts, 6 squash courts for those of you who play squash. And if you want to play badminton, the badminton court is still, you can still see it. Not many people are playing badminton these days. And of course, a full service food and beverage restaurant with a very, very nice plush private bar. Please remember, Ligonier Club shares some of the James Bond history. One of the James Bond movies was shot here. Which movie was it again? Anyway, the bar, the club bar, was the bar. Was
The
it?
one that was shot
Yeah.
in Jamaica.
Or something about Die. You can see that my knowledge of all things James Bond is not quite perfect. I should know this, but it's a famous location. The club is about 110 years old now. I should know the age also, but I know she's way more than 100. She's looking beautiful. The gardens are just as God had laid them,
So she's
with a little
beautiful.
pruning from man. Isn't she? She has beautiful bones. No, it's a beautiful location. We still have, the main building continues to have a part of the original building. It still reflects the a little of the original architecture, and there are 2 newer buildings which house additional rooms, but it's truly a beautiful place. And nestled in the heart of it, you have JD's Urban Pub, serving you some good local and Caribbean cuisine, a little, French Italian infused cuisine in the mix, but staffed by lovely and wonderful people. As you're going through the Christmas and you need to get out of your house occasionally, this is one excellent place to go. It is it has the environment for families. I mean, it is structured that way because the club itself caters for members through all stages of life. So can be very well accommodated here.
Sunday buffet like some.
Yes, there are buffets on Sunday.
What they do?
Yes.
One price, one eater.
Well, I don't know about that, but when JD sits with us, you can certainly ask him about the
You know, that could be
buffet.
something that's explored because some hotels have that, Sunday buffet, so the family can come out and eat a very nice meal. And
Yeah,
it's
they
not
do.
anything
They have a
expensive.
buffet.
Yeah, man, wonderful.
It's Jason Del Valle who's the proprietor, hence the JD, and Jason has promised to, despite his shyness, Jason
talk
has
to us
promised
one of the days.
to come
But
to
we're
come
gonna
and
do it
talk
before
with
the
us.
year closes, you think?
Yeah, the club president, Mr. Gareth Walker, has been promising to This is the club manager. Did I say club manager? I said club
You
president.
said club president.
No, the club manager, general manager is Mr. Gareth Walker. He too has promised to drop by,
Gary
but of
Walker
course,
is a player of badminton or something. He used to play badminton.
I don't know. You can ask him when he drops by.
So he needs to hurry up and come before the year closes.
Yeah. No, man, if they're not here with us today, certainly the next show that we do here on the 23rd, I did want them to sit with us and talk about whatever Christmas specials and the like they're doing. But so far, we are here way too early in the morning to accommodate that kind
Somebody
of...
said, those are godly hours that you get up to do this? You understand? My Lord.
And of course, you shush them and say no hour is ungodly.
You understand? That's so true.
Yeah, and then of course, I have to give credit to Carmen's Collection. They've made my life much easier because they've become my wardrobe. I go there and I select something for Thursdays because she's supporting us. They don't.
They don't have none for man.
They don't do men.
So we probably need to find a
Of course.
that supports. And
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I leave that challenge with you. I thought you said Mrs. Palmer was doing it.
No, but you see, Mrs. Palmer puts it together from Mr. Palmer in his wardrobe. When you think about it, when you have a wider collection, you understand.
Yeah, well, so Carmen's Collection has become my wardrobe, but my jewelry, all mine.
Okay, all right. And you look fantabulous this morning. You're such a work.
Yeah, I'll accept it. I can see a burst of white against my chest on the camera, and I know it's the sunlight. It's the glory of God. All right.
The sunshine in my eyes.
We are going to speak with Sarah in a little while. You said about she's expecting us.
About
We're going
7:30.
to call her now. But I did want to share a little bit more about Professor Clayton. Those of you who know me well understand that
She tells me I'm becoming a better storyteller, but I give it to her.
Pastor still need more training.
In terms of telling stories.
He just picks up. Listen, Professor Clayton is a fascinating man. Throughout this time, as we've been grappling with the issue of crime and violence and how best to, what is the crime plan that our government should put together, Percy keeps saying to me, we need to talk to Professor Clayton. And I'm like, why is Professor Clayton an expert on crime? Can I tell you? Professor Clayton is responsible as lead author of the intelligence-led policing strategy for Jamaica. This is from 2014. He wrote the national security policy. You know, had I gone and looked deeper into who Professor Clayton is, I would have invited him earlier because I would love to know, as I'm sure would all of you, I would love to know how well that policy is being executed because I'm sure it was well written.
It was, yes.
So, and he's actually an expert on national and citizen security. So, oddly, when I was reading his article addressing the point of the built environment and how we put in housing developments and so on, I had a personal comment based on what I saw happen to that young lady to whom we played the role of Good Samaritan a few weeks ago. When we went to her place, we saw that security seemed to have been the last thing in the developer's plan. And I was urging developers to take into consideration spending the extra dollars to ensure that technology is embedded into your infrastructure to give persons better security in their homes. And here we have a man who is an expert in both areas, citizen security as well as sustainable development and in how we interface with the environment. So I now know that the conversation is probably going to be driven by a lot of what he
knows he has knowledge about.
from the policy side on security. So that's who Professor Clayton
Energy security.
is. He also serves as a member of the Government of Jamaica's Climate Change Advisory Board. And he is a member of the Government of Jamaica Rule of Law Committee. Now that fascinates me because we've been talking here about the rule of law being one of the significant pillars of our democracy and the intersection between law, regulation and policy and the relationship that citizens build with the state, with government agencies and so on. And he seems to be in that sweet spot too. So, and then he's deputy chairman of the Jamaica Constabulary Force Operational Reform Oversight Committee. I gotta take a breath, that one. So he's sitting in some very, very significant places in this country. Finally, he is the chairman of the Broadcasting Commission, the same commission through which our licenses to do this very program. So yes, some would say only a white man could wear so many hats in Jamaica, but I mean we have many big-headed black men who are wearing 1,000 hats in Jamaica too. So of course we will be very interested in hearing how he is carrying out those multiple functions and the interrelatedness
That's
of
what he
those
said.
functions.
All of those are related.
They are all related, I can see, and how effective we are in executing against it.
But one
So that's
final-
Professor Clayton. Let me see where he was
Economic
born.
diversification.
Yeah, that's
Intro
all.
city cards.
Right, but I'm not gonna go into.
That's an interesting thing. Market entry strategy.
Yeah, but some of those are just streams,
Cannabis.
tendrils coming from the
attracted
same source.
Wow.
You know, I look at the many roles he's playing, and I'm tempted to talk a little bit about conflict. The reason I say conflict is this: there is a lot of value in having diverse voices address a subject, whilst at the same time you achieve continuity through some, specific ways. When you have one person sitting in so many houses, you run the risk of a certain lethargy creeping in, because however they feel on one issue, they bring it into the other issue and into the other issue. Similarly, if they are very passionate and energetic on another issue, you see that same passion crossing the line. So in many ways, it's a question of,
Manage your passion.
of where the passion is. In a democracy thrives on diversity. If it is not diverse, it is something else. Monopoly, oligopoly,
Yeah, but I understand.
I didn't want to use the political. I went into the economic structures, because it becomes something else.
Yeah, but
Dictatorial.
I don't think when you speak.
I'm not characterizing Mr. Clayton, Professor Clayton. I'm opening up
Another discussion.
a window for us as we speak with him, and as listeners take in what he's saying, for them to be able to sense, is this a part of the problem, or is this the key to the solution? We've had on the front pages yesterday in another paper the talk of conflict of interest, as persons were urging the Prime Minister, well, not persons, as an opposition speaker, I think it was Julian Robinson,
And the leader
was
of
urging the
opposition,
Prime
yeah.
Minister to
Be careful.
jettison Mr. Gabidon as chairman of HART because of a conflict, a perceived conflict of interest. And there is an apparent conflict, because he is a major supplier to HART Trust, and he's also the chairman, setting policy and overseeing things. And the issue with conflict is that it can be as dangerous just because of perception as in actuality. He may never, as a person, behave in an improper way. He may always keep himself out of the areas where the conflict could become dangerous. But all the other persons who know who he is, and that's really where it takes place. I don't think that, absent criminal conduct, I don't think any sensible person would use the conflict in an obvious way to benefit themselves. like, you're sitting in a meeting and something is going up, and where you should recuse yourself, you continue, and then you vote, and you draw advantages to yourself. Mostly it happens because people downstream believe that this is what you want, or they believe that if they please you with this or that inducement, you will in turn put a benefit their way. And that's really where it happens. As I've said before, you will never see that Mr. Reed, Royal Reed, when he was minister, you won't see his signature on any check. He would never have drawn a check to himself. He would never have meaning a check out of the government's coffers. It's other people who execute and who get
Which
it
is
done.
why I speak about
So conflict in and of itself is something that we need to understand.
The officer of ministry is the permanent secretary, and somebody I know of JDs, I know of persons personally who have been sidelined because and the funny thing in terms of how they say it is that okay. So the minister would call and say, do this, do that. And I said, all right, minister, just put it in writing. Put it in writing, minister, and I'll follow you. Or if you're not clear, just clarify what the instruction, and it stops here.
Yeah, or what I like to do, because sometimes people don't put things in writing, but they pressure you anyway. I write and say, I'm confirming that you have instructed me to do so and so. I await your confirmation.
And no confirmation or anything comes after. It's kind of interesting. So the ones who have been in the civil service for a very long time know what it is to be doing something contrary to procedure and thing, and they say to you, hello, please, just put it in writing, and that will solve all of the problems.
Is that Professor Clayton over there?
No, that's small.
All right, so are we going to, it's time to speak to Sarah.
Yeah, where is
Engineer, cue me, please. Should we call her, or are you going to call her?
Lowell went to call her.
All right, I'm going to ask that we move down a little bit, because the sun is blinding me. Either that, or we try and put something to, we could put that to the other side. All right, so we're going to talk to Sarah, and Professor Clayton, who will spend a little bit more time with him because of the wide range of issues on which he will speak. We will speak with somewhere about what's it, 8:30?
Yeah, 8:30.
All right, let's get Sarah on the line now, if we can, please. Okay. All right, well, we're coming up hard on the 7:30 break, so perhaps that's what we will do first. That's the recommendation, that we take our break, and then we'll be back with Madame Sarah and her very enterprising angelic self.
My
Afterwards, we'll speak to Professor Clayton, who is a man of many, many talents. All right, this is the Morning Connection. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Seems you nowhere to be found. I often stare in space, but your face I cannot see. I feel your every presence all around me, but I just can't communicate. Tell me, where did I go wrong? Please show me the way back to your love, back to your love. Never gonna give up on you. Search for you for so long, and in my lonely world, my negligence have been so strong. Forgive me if I cry, forgive me if I die a little inside, a little inside. Only you I can talk to, only you can understand the troubled times we're living in. I hope it doesn't last too long. Follow the word, it will drive you crazy. Follow the leaders, they will drive you mad. Gather around me, children, and help me sing the song. Oh, oh. Forgive me if I cry. Forgive me if I die. A little inside. A little inside. 'Cause only you I can talk to. Only you can understand the troubled times we're living in. Come on, let's get it over with. Come on, let's get it done. Tell me, what are you here for? People, do you wanna have fun? It's a long time we haven't partied. Can't afford for our bodies to get cold. Let's forget all about the worries. Let's rock, rock and roll. Yes, the night is young. Nothing's gonna stop us from having fun. Yes, the night is young. And we've only just begun. Yes, the night is young. I said that nothing's gonna stop us from having fun. Yes, the night is young. And we've only just begun. It's a party night, party night, party night tonight. We are gonna be partying till broad daylight. Party night, what a lovely feeling. Party night, you know it isn't feeling. Party night, party night tonight.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Morning Connection. We have on the phone Sarah Sonia Walker. That's all Pastor have you in his phone.
Yes.
Good morning. Are you hearing me clearly?
Yes, I'm hearing you clearly.
Excellent. You are live on the Morning Connection. I know the hosts of the show are Percival Palmer and myself, Minette Lawrence. Percy, you want to say hi so she knows that I'm not pranking her?
She know that you're not pranking her. How you doing? You reach home back safe, man?
Oh, yes, Pastor Percy, good morning.
morning.
I'm happy to be live on Best FM. It certainly is a privilege, and I'm happy for the interview.
Well, I can tell you the privilege and the pleasure is mutual because when Percival told me about this remarkable lady who has just followed her heart in some very powerful ways and said, would you like to speak with her? The answer was very easy and very quick, and as you see, you're barely back at home and we're already harassing you in the early morning. Which part of the world are you in, just for the benefit of our listeners?
I am in Florida. Yeah, I'm in Florida. You're
Next door.
Yes, next. Yeah. I mean, my brother. Really living in New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the part of Jamaica do you hail from originally?
Originally, back in the days, West Cyprus was that's where I originally from, and then from there I moved to the States here in Georgia, here to the United States. That's wow, a long time ago.
At what age did you move to the States?
At 17.
Young teenager, fresh for the life. But Jamaica, I take it, you've never forgotten things, Jamaica and Jamaican.
I'm sorry.
I take it, you've never forgotten your home. How was that? How was that life for you?
It kept me alive for me because I was my thoughts when you live in the country, you could forget the people you leave behind. Every time I see that, wow, contribute to make contribution, but I didn't know how to make a contribution until later on in life. I said, wow, it's giving back. And I never forget, I come every year, sometimes twice a year. And there's always a the word I could go, but something about Jamaica that makes my heart beat.
So you arrived in America at age 17 with Jamaica firmly planted in your heart, and you then went into the education system in the U.S. Or what training did you pursue?
I did go to college. I did telecommunications. I did yes, not for radio because of my job. I did telecommunication. I did accounting at Camden County University. In Miami University, I did telecommunication. And in Broward County College, could you believe it? I did music.
I never know that about you.
I studied music.
So you perform, or you instruct, or you write? What aspect of music?
Oh, it was, I wanted to, believe it or not, I wanted to really sing, and I wanted to know notes and the languages of music. So that's why I went and studied music.
The next time you're on air, you're going to have to sing for us. Well, I won't pressure you for that today.
No, she's not gonna do that. Yes.
We won't do that to you today. But so you went through the whole gamut of getting yourself trained and ready for life. And throughout all that, you were coming back to Jamaica. When did you start focusing your attention now on giving something back? At what stage?
It has to be maybe about around 20 years, could be more. I started to give back at a very low scale. And then I realized that, wow, I enjoy doing that. And I said, I'm going to go out and ask for help because I want to take it back. So my family become a good supporter. So I keep coming back.
Your partners.
And keep growing. Yes.
Have you established connections with the different communities that's a part of what you do now? So you're almost like, do you have a network on the local side in Jamaica?
Locally in Jamaica, no, you guys are my best right now. You're giving me that open doors now, and indeed I'm grateful. I don't have any connection with anybody donating to me in Jamaica. My connection is here from my church, and like I said, my family and friends who give into the ministry, and I mean they give a lot. I do have a.
I get the feeling that all the times when you were coming back, even as a teenager, you always had something packed for somebody. That's the nature of it. We travel, we have a little list, and we try to make sure we bring back something.
You're a prophetic, the prophecies on you, yes. She is a prophet. She's a prophet. She got prophetic ministry within her. Honestly, I don't know, but I just have to be packing. And people just keep coming to me, and I just,
No, man, I can see it. And I want to know, what was it that happened? Some event that moved you from just bringing back for the one or two people who touch your heart. Was there an event that just kicked it to, we talk about from glory to glory. What pushed you from glory to glory? Was there something that triggered it?
People in general, when I look around the church, and I look in my community, and I look at people on the street, because I says, no man, I can make a difference, and I jump on board and do it. Just do it. And I really, honestly, walk around and give people in the street, and people just know me from that.
Okay. in talking about it, you actually now have in place a non-profit. What's the name of the non-profit?
The non-profit is God Ever Touching Humanity Limited.
Okay, all right. So, and you started. You told me you started with just one barrel, and how has that been over the years? Because you started with a barrel, and my recollection is you've gone up to as much as 30 odd barrels.
34.
34.
My highest, yeah.
And you recently
And that
just
was last year.
that was last year, but recently you did some distribution. Tell us about that in terms of the 25 barrels and how that was for you.
Yeah. You said
The recent distribution.
25 barrels. Well, you mean I distribute?
Yeah. Where you did that recently.
Oh, yeah. So this recently with this 24 barrels, I've covered churches in Rollington Town, churches in Trench Town. I've covered Love and Hope Ministry, which they have like around 10 or 12 schools, of which I've gone into the schools too. And I have covered Waterhouse, and I have covered Love and Faith Ministry.
So the
And Greenwich Farm.
so the church community in Jamaica are your partners on the ground? You reach out to them or they reach out to you?
I got people call me and then I reach out to them. I got a phone call at this church needs, and I reach out to them.
Okay.
I met the pastors of the churches.
I don't want to leave this section without your telling us how persons can find you. Do you have a presence on Facebook, on YouTube? Do you have a social media presence? Or is there a
I
phone
haven't set
number?
up a website as yet because you know what happened, prophetess. I haven't set up a
You're
website
prophesying
as
to me
yet.
now. You're prophesying to me now.
And you know, I have a partner that I put on board because I'm a director of the company, and her name is Margaret Reed. She's my assistant director because she does a ministry in Montego. But I don't have a website. I'm going to do that now, and because I do everything out from family and out of our own resources, and we don't ask for any money from anyone.
So here's what I'm gonna do
We don't
then.
have a,
Sarah, to those listeners, we have a very lively and thoughtful community of listeners in the diaspora. This is Best FM, and any of them online now who might want to give to you or to offer any kind of support for the program you're on. I'm just saying right now that if you can't find Sarah today and your heart has moved you to do something with her, just send an email or a note to the Morning Connection.
Fine. All right.
And we will pass it on to her
Great.
because Sarah is Pastor's friend.
She
Yes, Palmer.
Pastor Palmer's spiritual daughter. We don't know.
Palmer, yes.
Them have relationship. So
Okay.
if you want to do something with Sarah and your heart has moved you right now, and I suggest that for those who say I'd love to do something with this lady, just send us a note and we'll get the particulars on to Sarah, and Sarah will find you
Okay.
because she's good like that.
Wonderful. Okay, my email for the business is SEWTONATIONS at yahoo.com, which is
So
so
to nations.
Yes. And prophetess, you know, I got that many years ago, and I said, God, why are you giving me this email address? But years later, this is the reason.
All
Give
right.
it to people.
We're happy to serve
Yes.
with you, Miss Sarah. Pastor, you have anything else you want to say to Sarah?
No, I am just so overwhelmed. She has a big heart, and to see that what she does it out of her own resources, You never told them that you have impacted people as far away as in Clarendon, in terms of because people know they reach out, and she in turn she does it. She brings in persons to help her to volunteer to pack out the stuff, and it is clothes, shoes, baby stuff, all different kind of things. Like she said, what happened to her with the lockdown, people just, a lot of stores were closing down in the States. So her family just went and bought up brand new shoes. It's not, I just gave it to her and she was able to distribute, because she sent us some pictures online, and you see the children, you see the adults, you see the persons who have just been impacted by just your generosity, and we just says kudu. The other thing is that she's an intercessor. She's one of the persons who prays for me. So
you
she's
do,
powerful that
yeah.
yeah.
Well, let's give her a blessing. What is it? Is it breakfast time in Florida yet?
No,
Yes. Pastor Palmer, can I mention my 2 volunteers here locally?
Oh,
in
absolutely.
Jamaica?
yes,
Sure.
go ahead.
Yeah, my volunteer are Etta Reed and Sharon Hamilton. And in the States, I am supported by my family, which is church here. My church here is Evangelism Today Christian Church. Pastor Keith Davis and Linda Davis. My sister, was my greatest support, is Janet Walker and Lenora Walker and Deaconess Ava and Yvonne Ein for the sister. And my niece who give all the shoes is Lydia Bailey, and my nephew who gives 61 pairs of sneakers is Tyson Walker. Those are my support.
Can I tell you, Sonia, I am so glad that you took the opportunity to kind of name your family, and it shows the power of relationships. We've been speaking a lot
Amen.
here about persons at the community level, at the family level, just stepping up with a sense of empowerment and authority and doing things that can change their own life and the lives of those around them. And all that you have said here has confirmed the strength of that. I congratulate you for the work that you are doing. I know that you don't want us to talk endlessly about how wonderful you are and how generous you are, because you are not giving. You're not. One, I know you're not giving out of your own, in the sense that you're a steward, and what God has blessed you with, you're sharing. And we acknowledge that, and we know that it is glory to the one who provides. So I won't cause you to blush anymore.
No. Actually, you almost, I'm holding the tears back because I'm so privileged. I'm so excited to know that I'm recognized by someone in the media, or a radio station. So may the Lord bless FM.
We return.
And prosper. Yes.
We return the same blessing to you, my dear, 1,000-fold.
Yes.
You are among the persons who motivate us to do what we're doing. And I hope that your words this morning, just your very presence and what you're doing, will inspire somebody who's been kicking around an idea and thinking that where they are is too small or too lowly, or that it will not amount to much. I tell you, this is multiplication at work.
Amen.
So, bless you, Sarah.
Bless you, my dear. Bless you, Pastor Palmer, and bless the family of Best FM. Indeed, I'm grateful.
All right, we receive it on behalf of the listeners. All right, thank you very much. Thanks, Sarah. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay.
Also, bye-bye.
You're welcome. Bye. All right. Now that's just, absolutely refreshing. When I hear her say my niece and my nephew and my sister and I live like that. That's how I live. There are times when
individual, our family, community, and just that family. When people say you're crazy, you packing barrel out of your resources, carrying it back and giving it away without anything. And she's been doing it, she said, for 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
20 years.
20 years.
Impacting people's lives. And that's what we bring about change.
So you see, earlier on when I said that, you're doing something, you now thinking about your grandchildren, can you imagine when Sarah depart this realm, there is somebody who's going to remember that my first good pair of shoes, or I needed something to go do an interview or whatever, but some life-changing moment, they will remember that it's a lady who used to bring things from America and give in the community that gave me that push forward. They might not even know her name, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine, because I feel her heart. I know that she don't even want us to be calling up her name too often, because she's been doing this when no one even knew.
Yeah.
The fact that it moved to 34 barrels, those 34 barrels are have the same importance as the single barrel, as the single suitcase. No, it is.
And I applaud her now, because she's recently, she says she graduated 17, got married there, stuff. She lost her daughter recently, just this year.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, wow, and she continued to press through. Because when those things happen, it can really put you down. But that's where family is, and community come and support you and help you and say, come on, you can do this. It's something that your daughter would have wanted for you to do.
But she's not mourning her daughter though, because that lady live at a high level. She knows that death is but a transition to a better place for the person who has died.
Yeah.
And you who live, this is just something I want to share in this moment. We have to bring ourselves to the point where we understand and can relate to death in a proper way. To the person who has died, they've moved on to a realm where if you believe in what I believe in, you're better off. And to those who survive, if you have done right by that person in the time that they were with you, and you have your memories, and sure, you're gonna miss them, and if they died in like an accident or some situation, that carries its own pain, but your grieving is different. Your grieving is different. She's not mourning. That woman is full of joy and excitement.
Yeah, when you meet her.
Because,
and it's interesting.
yeah.
It's like the way she laughs.
Yeah.
That's how the family laughs.
Yeah. So that's just beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. Now, for me,
Yeah.
Sarah is the essence of Jamaica.
That
is what I believe and feel about Jamaica. And my belief and my faith is not shifted or deterred or weakened by the violence and the excesses that we see around us. As Professor Clayton comes and we begin to talk about the security of the citizen, I believe that Jamaican spirit, that purity, that generosity, that joyfulness, it's right here.
Right. And we just have to multiply
undiminished.
Multiply it and grow it and return
wake it up.
Wake it up.
So it can return to its position of dominance in the Jamaican psyche. We're having a discussion one day, probably most of my discussions are with Lowell. We're having a discussion one day about what is it that fuels the violence in the society. And I was saying there's a great deal of anger. And what is anger? Anger, properly understood, comes out of disappointed expectations. So it's not that we have no hope or expect. It is that we hope for so much and we desire so much, and when we are disappointed, it becomes very ugly. As a result of which I say, if we could fulfill those expectations, if we could shift the focus and to want house and work and food. No, so I'm putting it back to you. What is it that our people want?
And that's an interesting question, because some of the time they are...
You may fuss about timing, but I want you to remember something.
No, I'm not going to fuss about timing. I'm just saying, are the expectations...
Let me explain.
Really?
They might want it too fast.
Okay.
That's what I mean by timing.
No, I understand that.
Right. So they might want it too fast, and that is unrealistic because there's process. Forget time. There's process. You can cheat time by escalating process, expediting process.
We call it crashing it in operation management.
Yeah, but then you would crash.
No, because the concept is this, that when you're doing you're trying to
No, I understand. I'm
operational-
teasing your mind by saying the risk is it will crash.
No, but you put the resources to move that point. Because if you know there's a limitation there, then the whole idea is to put the resources behind it to make sure that
You don't crash?
Don't become a bottleneck in your process.
Right, so you don't crash.
that you don't crash.
But there's the risk. The risk
is
is you will crash because you have put too much stress on the system.
But if you think of it in terms of our governmental system,
I am thinking of it.
yeah, and that's why
Yeah.
my mind went to that
Yes,
because
it went to the right place.
because if this is the bottleneck in the system that is
Mm-hmm.
preventing the other things that you know need to happen, then that becomes a priority in terms of putting
Right.
resources
That's
there.
where the adaptation takes
putting
place.
resources there that you move beyond so it does not become your bottleneck.
Right.
And,
And-
right now in our country, to extrapolate it even
Mm-hmm.
further, the thing of crime and violence,
It has hit a bottleneck.
that is the bottleneck.
It's crashed into the
And
bottleneck.
corruption is a bottleneck.
Crime and violence is a symptom.
Yeah.
And one of the problems, take the word problem out of it. One of the reasons we're not solving it is because we are treating it as a cause instead of a symptom.
Of something major.
Absolutely. So you have to step back from the symptom and find the cause and address the cause,
Right, that's
or the
right.
symptom will persist.
Right.
So when you said crime and violence is the bottleneck, crime and violence erupts because something has hit a bottleneck and has created chaos.
What is hitting the bottleneck?
That's what we're talking about.
but
I
I say
say
what-
disappointed expectations. You say, are they realistic?
Yeah, and I'm still
Because
asking
we
that
are
because
talking
even if
about
I'm to spread
how to address
over
it.
in terms of a marriage. Mm-hmm. A lot of
There are always disappointed expectations.
always-
I can tell you.
And the question is, have you had unreal expectations? Have you had a conversation? I said to couples, have you really had a conversation about it? Or be getting married, you have had this in the back of your head, but
Yeah,
you
wait.
look at your husband.
So you're going
or
back
the
to
wife,
you're
yes.
going back to our conversation of Monday, the necessity for agreement.
And unity and understanding. I'm saying, I said to them, when you look at it, can I really fulfill this expectation that you have of me? So I put it up front and say, no, I'm gonna try, but if I don't do that, you can hold me against it and become angry and start to grieve in terms of that whole process. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
Expectations in our society is fueling a lot of stuff. And so that's how education is important. Because even in terms of the counseling that you do,
To break the
it's like
cycle.
the
Yeah.
cognition. Why are you thinking that? Where is that
Yeah.
coming from? What has caused you to have those expectations? You need to look at it realistically.
So now,
Yeah.
just the same way that wealth can be intergenerational,
Yes.
I was going to say poverty, but unmet expectations, disappointed expectations, anger and bitterness over failures or perceived failures will transcend generation. Your child is nursed on your bitterness of what your father didn't do for you, what your mother never do for you, what the country didn't do for you, who lose them job through politics, who.
Yeah, go on.
And,
And how do
yeah.
you solve that?
So no, what I'm saying is that the young man or woman that you see today acting out in the violent
There's
way,
some generational things.
absolutely, they've been nurtured on some things which they themselves don't even understand because they fed on it for so long that they can't even identify the source. Absolutely. But you and I are in the business of redemption, so we know that there are ways that you can
Break things
You can cheat the clock.
In an instant.
yeah.
In an
And
instant.
that sound like I talk about deliverance.
In an instant.
Yeah. Just a shift in the mind, the renewed mind.
That is why Jesus said, "The Spirit is upon me to bring a captive though." And in that Luke 4:18, which comes out of
Isaiah.
61, the brokenhearted
Mm-hmm.
and with expectation, people in captivity need to be released.
All right, we run the risk now of one or two listeners pulling their beards or their locks and say, "There they go ahead," trying to
But we are still
evangelize
we're not
about
spiritual.
but the renewed mind. And so Paul credits the renewed mind to the
Transformation
to,
of
to the indwelling of the Holy Spirit.
Transform thinking. Word
But
knowledge.
it is really, say it again, Pastor.
Word knowledge.
Transformed thinking.
Yeah.
Transformed thinking.
Word.
Whatever it is that causes you to abandon the ways and the thought patterns of yesterday, which had you in failure and misery. Whatever causes you to say that did not work, I'm heading over here. For some persons, there are like a wealth of these self-help books, where different persons who manage to make the transition write about the dark days that they endured, and how one morning or one night, or they're walking along the street about to step into the path of a moving vehicle, and something just click in their mind that says, no, why don't you go here or there? I don't know. The truth is, like, someone like me now don't have a moment like that I can point to. I can tell you that at age 10, I was standing outside my parents' house, and I look up in the sky and I see something that just said something to me. And from that moment on, I knew who I was. I was 10 years old. But what is that except just, the memories of a child? But there are some people who have powerful tales of transformed thinking, where them have things in them hand for the things they shouldn't do, and a thought just intervenes, and they head in a different direction. It's time to take our break, 8 o'clock. Before we take the break, let me just announce the one number on which you can reach us this morning is 876-361-6583. Let me say it again. 876-361-6583. We're going to take our break. When we get back, we're going to have a conversation with Professor Clayton, and then we will open the lines for our conversations with you. There should have been a second number, but I will share the in-studio joke. When the second line was not brought up, I said, well, we're only going to speak to one person at a time. So, so when we finish speaking to one person, the line will be free, and the next person who catch it will go. All right, so now it's time for a break. Please stay with us. This is the Morning Connection, coming to you live from the Legany Club. Good morning and welcome back to the Morning Connection. Of course, I will not stop saying it is a beautiful day here. We're outdoors at the Legany Club where we do our show every Thursday. It's been a little hard on some of our listeners because while we're here, we're usually not able to take as many calls. But I've given you the number. We're going to open the lines right after we have our conversation with Professor Clayton. The number to call this morning, 876-361-6583. To participate in the show, you can give us a call when we open the lines in a short while. All right, let me just give some love to my folks online. This is now on YouTube because we're on Facebook. Someone has to, at some point I'll have to be able to monitor it so we can deal with the comments from those in the Facebook community. But right now I see Toronto in the house, New Jersey in the house, Patterson, New Jersey. Is that how it's pronounced? Patterson? Not Paterson? But okay.
Americans, they never know the pronunciation.
I know, because it's one T, so who knows. But all right. So I hope I got that right. But, you know, we're hailing up our folks who are there in New Jersey. Taki online, Earl Brown, good morning to you too, Earl. And Kevin, good morning to you. Thank you for the support, for joining us. Of course, Griffkem was first online early in the morning. Taki has made a point that Pastor Percy, you agreed with it. He says that anger in the society, believe it or not, it begins with a trail that started straight from the plantation. Of course, the disappointments of carrying legacies that still are not addressed adequately. And that is absolutely true. We know that it goes back deep, and that's why when you keep just addressing the symptom, and you're not getting to the root cause. And we were talking about the renewed mind and the necessity to enter into just a fresh way of thinking and a new place. It is absolutely necessary. It's critical to our survival that we make that change. However you do it, for some it's been when they met Christ. For some it's when God spoke to them. But always it involves intervention of a type that is nowhere ordinary and not of this world.
And
Whatever.
I like when you said that, because Jesus, when he came, I am what I am. He says, repent. You need to change your mind. Because there's a new kingdom that has burst into the world, so you just need to change your mind, make 180
degrees turn.
In terms of the way of thinking, of doing things. And that begins with understanding that the way you have done things in the past has not sufficed. So you have to change and understand too in the thinking that God has your best interest at heart. And when you're going through the process, He's here to help you. So you have to intervene.
And so let's take a pattern from nature. Let's take a pattern even from the history of Christianity as we have come to know it. You start by practicing. You know, Moses is credited with delivering the law on the tablets of stone, and the law is what guided man in their behavior until redemption and Christ. So it is. If you are not at the point where you are acknowledging or accepting that Jesus is the way, some persons are offended by the thought that this man who we say was crucified over 2,000 years ago, that this is the impact he has. If you're not at that point where you acknowledge this to be so, but you recognize that change is needed, and you begin to just practice the change, you will become what you desire to be. And in that process, in that whole journey of practicing to be something better, greater, higher than your current self, He will meet you. Somebody will meet you. I guarantee it. The change will become. Yeah, absolutely. All right, we are going to speak with Professor Clayton now. Remember, we've been talking about sustainable development goals. We've been talking about preservation of the environment and our heritage. And big issues have come up concerning our treatment of the cockpit country, or treatment of water as a resource, how we harvest it, how we manage it, how we distribute it, the availability of it to all households in Jamaica. We still have a problem in terms of the built environment for the distribution of water. We've also talked about energy, our current reliance on fossil-based energy, when we should be moving to renewable energies in the form of either solar-powered or wind-powered energy. These are all topics that are current in our everyday consideration: the cost of energy and its impact on production, and therefore its impact on the cost of goods. These are things which we are all talking about, whether you recognize it or not. When you talk about cost of living gone up and food prices gone up, you really are referring to some changes in the underlying fundamentals. We can't really kid ourselves in believing that prices have gone up because the merchants wicked and greedy, which is some of the things that's what we say on the street. We're going to the shop and bread and some basic staples costing you more. You look at the shopkeeper with malice and grievance and you think that is because he's greedy. No. When we look at change in prices, we are also looking at the escalation in the cost of some underlying things, and some of those things are unavoidable no matter what Bank of Jamaica does with the interest rate, no matter what strategy the planners and the bureaucrats put into place. If these things change in the real world, they are going to affect you in your pocket. Last night on the news, they took the $7,000 minimum wage and went to market. They went to the Coronation Market. They were doing for me what? Who was supposed to do it? One of the callers is trying to do it.
Yeah.
Well, no, they weren't replicating the basket. They just took the $7,000 and went shopping. They went to the produce market. They went to the supermarket for, canned and shelf products. And they went to the butchers. Well, not really the butcher, but they went to a meat shop type thing to get $1,250 worth of chicken and chicken back. And they had like less than $2,000 left over to take you through the week, to give you lunch and to give you bus fare and any other incident. And I guess you now have to pay electricity, and if you're paying for water, and God help you if you want internet and cable.
God helps you.
So the $7,000 was practically depleted buying food. I didn't hear them say what size family they were shopping for, but when you're spending $1,250 on like 2 pounds of chicken and some chicken back, how many persons are you shopping for the week? That really sounds like you live alone.
But it's interesting.
But just when you think about portion, because if each person is supposed to get 4 ounces of protein with their main meal, just say you're trying to do dinner, because if it's chicken, I'm gonna assume it's dinner you're trying to do, and you buy 2 pounds for let's say 6 days. See where I'm going with that? How many persons that going to feed? The math is there. It's one of the things, math don't lie. Yeah. Where you gonna complement it with for dinner? You've only bought chicken.
Yeah, but I thought you said they bought tin stuff.
Yeah, but that might be for breakfast when you buy tin mackerel and so on.
Where do you cook?
But you have breakfast to do as well.
Okay.
Me cooking now, so me know, and you can
cook too.
Yeah, all right. So if you're not gonna
depends on what you do. Are you? The producer say cook too. I cook also.
I also cook.
Yeah, but it's interesting, and those are the realities that face 50, 60, 70%
of our people.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. Okay, so even in the best run houses with every kind of resource, and in my house now, only chicken and fish. The producer only eats chicken and fish, and is allergic to shellfish, so that limits your choice. You, the person managing the meals, you don't want to do the same thing all the time. You try to make it interesting, and you try to add diversity, and you really don't want to be constantly saying to the children, that may have, so that you have to eat. Even if you end up saying it, your heart breaks. And you must be saying, what is the point of my working if I can't even do something for my family? So the 7,000 per week that they went shopping with didn't leave money for rent. All those things assume that you don't pay mortgage or rent, because you're out of that now, you still have light bill. And so survival is, it's so when we speak to Professor Clayton, this man now, he will have the answer to all these things.
No,
We're just gonna-
yes, set up the gentleman.
no, you know that we never do that.
No, just
But-
answer them questions, because those are real questions that need to be answered. So there are some people are pushing for the minimum wage to be doubled, to be 15,000 per week. And as I quoted the study, a lot of people have said if you increase the minimum wage, what will happen is that people lose jobs and so on. But the gentleman who received, there are two gentlemen who received the Nobel Peace Prize for economics, and they actually did a study and found that it was not so. So if people just want to Google that in terms of actual studies in the marketplace and in terms of what it is, and their thing was that it has not been proven. People have said that, if we increase the minimum wage, people will lose jobs. That they say no. When we did actual studies, never really worked that way out. So we need to examine that. We need to rethink some of the things that we have held as gospel in terms of how the economy functions, because it's not really functioning that way.
All right, is it time to call?
Yes, I think we should try
Yeah, call him now.
calling the star. But try, because you check to see that he's in Professor Clayton.
Yes.
Yes, man.
Oh, you're concerned that we're close to the break? Yeah, let's call him. Let's call him.
Because he should have been settled now and enough after his thing. I'm so sorry he's not here. He's not very.
Let me be sure. Are we saying it's too close to the break? Okay. All right, good. All right. No, let's talk to Professor Clayton.
I seen that you're having the gentleman at 9, so we want to.
Right.
maximize the time.
We're gonna have a drop-in visitor. From the Ligony Club general manager is gonna come chat with us. So he plans to come at 9. We'll see how it goes. Let me see what Professor Clayton been doing in relation to cannabis. The man is everywhere. This is because he has identified the scope for Jamaica to supply the world market for nutraceuticals, and he has developed the market entry strategy. So he chairs the Government of Jamaica Cannabis Advisory Committee. Does that committee still exist, or it's been replaced by the? Good morning. All right, so as we wait to get properly set up, let me just remind our listeners that we're going to be speaking with Professor Anthony Clayton, who is an expert in many things. The only shortage we'll have this morning is time to cover as much ground. Professor Clayton?
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Welcome to the Morning Connection. Your voice is very low. I'm not sure if you are you speaking deliberately low, or
No. I'm just in a public place. I'm just trying to find a quiet spot.
that's what I thought. So all right. So we'll have the engineers do some adjustment on our side. As long as you're
Okay,
hearing me
thank
clearly,
you.
then that's perfect.
I am.
Wonderful.
Well, yes.
Professor Anthony Clayton, welcome to our program. Thanks for joining us today. We
Thank
did
you.
a preview of all the things that you're involved in. So when I was speaking to your better half, and I says he's Professor of Sustainable Development, she says, I was
Right.
saying that's just the environment. She said, no. There are so many areas that speak to sustainability in development. And as I was saying to you yesterday, we were following your articles, your 8 series article in the Gleaner that ended on Sunday gone, and my co-host Minette was reading it on here and discussing it. So we welcome you here this morning. We know we're talking about crime and violence, we're talking about the environment, we're talking about future studies, the built environment. What are the things that make up sustainable development in your opinion?
Well, sustainable development is really about trying to resolve the impediments to national development. And in Jamaica's case, this includes things like the need for economic diversification, financial stabilization, but in particular, of course, it also means things like energy security and national and citizen security, because crime and corruption are the most effective impediments to this country's development. Best estimates of the cost of crime and corruption range between 5 and 10% of GDP. And that means that there is actually no single investment that could do as much for this country as reducing our levels of crime, corruption, and violence in particular.
Wow. And so what is our present GDP, Prof? And that's estimate. So you're saying 5 to 10%. Is it 300?
Yes, estimates are in the range 5 to 10%. My own estimate is probably just a little over 7% of GDP, which is the cost. Includes the direct cost, which is the cost, the imputed value of lives lost and hospitalization. It's the additional spending on security. But most of all, it's things like foregone investment, because there's a great deal of investment that would come here, but the levels of crime and violence are a significant deterrent for investment in particular areas. So what we have seen over the years is the emergence of almost two Jamaicas. There's one Jamaica which has all the necessary preconditions for prosperity, but then there is a Jamaica which has been isolated from most of the development of the last 40 years. And this is where we see the entrenched poverty and the desperation in the troubled communities.
Amongst the many hats you've worn or continue to wear, you can correct me. I see that you do some work with the Jamaica Constabulary Force, and that you were the lead author of the intelligence-led policing strategy for Jamaica. So, for me, I would characterize that as you're having spent some time at looking at present and future needs and the strategies to address what's happening now. Have you done much in the way of looking at the root cause for some of these social dysfunctional elements?
Yes, we have.
What have you identified as being at the root of some of what we're seeing?
But there is no one factor. What you're looking at is the effect of a number of compounding factors. So you've got people being born in the troubled communities who have typically they've got poor housing, they have very limited educational opportunities. The schools that most of them attend are poorly performing schools. You've got broken families, you've got dysfunctional models, you've got violence producers in those communities. It's actually amazing to me that people come out of those communities and come out as normal, decent people, because the odds are so stacked against them. So you can't just go in and fix one thing. You have to go in and fix a number of the problems. Ideally, with the ZOSOs, if we had perhaps had a slightly more coherent plan for them, we could have gone in with sufficient numbers to maintain the peace, and then that gives you the opportunity to fix the infrastructure,
to do the work on the ground,
fix the healthcare, educational facilities. But most of all, you have to look at some of the patterns, the deep-rooted patterns of retaliatory violence, and you have to find ways to break that. And one particular dimension that has never had enough attention is the fact that we have so many children who've been abused, sexually, physically, emotionally abused, coming out of these communities. And many of them are suffering from attention deficit and post-traumatic stress disorder. And the incidence of people in the prison systems in most countries with ADHD or PTSD is approximately 10 times the level in the population. So children who are mistreated, who are abused, who are beaten, are significantly more likely to end up in gangs as sex workers and in the prison system.
And in the prison
So
system. I want to share
we have to do
something.
more about trying to reach out to families and protect the children above all.
Yes. Yeah. I want to share a comment with you from one of our listeners online, but I'll create a little context. We were talking about anger being the end result of disappointed expectations, and then it turned to a look at the generational nature of some of these issues, and even the abuse and the dysfunction in the communities that you referenced can be generational.
Right.
One of our listeners said this: that anger in the society, believe it or not, begins with a trail that started straight from the plantations. Of course, the disappointments of carrying legacies that are still not addressed adequately is a feature. Have you, in your look at Jamaica and maybe other, post-colonial societies such as ours, I see you've done some work in Trinidad and Tobago.
That's true, yeah.
Right. Have you considered the impact of our past, that distant past, as opposed to some of what you're seeing in the communities?
Yes. In fact, it does not appear to be the most significant factor. The reason why we know this is that at the time of independence, Jamaica's homicide rate was about the same as world average. Jamaica's homicide rate did not start to rise until 10 years after independence, until about 1972. And it's gone up.
Sorry, I want to make a note of that statistic. You're saying that
Right.
homicide, the rates did not
Homicide-
rise until about 10 years after independence.
Until 10 years after independence, that's right. So at the time of independence, Jamaica's homicide rate was basically the same as the average for the rest of the world. So it didn't start going up until 10 years after independence. And it rose steadily over the subsequent 5 decades to be one of the 2 or 3 highest in the world.
That
So
seems...
we have to look at what happened in the 70s and the 80s to look at the proximate cause of the higher levels of violence. And what happened then, of course, was that both of the 2 main political parties resorted to political violence. Both of them were involved in arming their respective factions, and this is where the level of violence started to rise, and we have never managed to get it back down since then.
It would seem to me, though, that there might be some merit in distinguishing the impact of this greater access to the tools for violence from the attitude or the disposition towards violence, which must have been there in order for the tools to be so readily used. But I want to ask you this. The person who, when we gained our independence, or whatever polite word is good to describe that transition, when in 1962, when the colonial masters, so to speak, were in charge of government and in charge of the society, and maybe even expectations were different, and we saw a certain mood or mindset in the population. I'm curious as to your thinking as concerning now that individual who was maybe 10 years old in 1962, and 10 years later is now 20 years old, and might now be an actor in a violent engagement. I'd love to hear what do you think might have been that person's experience, because from where I sit, I'm seeing a great deal of excitement in the society that we are coming into our own and we are now going to be in charge of the shop. And then I'm seeing a great deal of disappointment in the 70s and 80s, which with the tools and the weapons to be expressed in a more violent way takes root. And from there, the story continues in much the same vein. We won't spend much more time on it, but I would like to hear your thoughts, and then we can move on to something else.
You've identified two factors.
Yes.
One of them is the what happens at the time of independence itself, and the other is the availability of weapons. So you can identify, you can look at what happens at the time of independence by comparing the histories of a group of countries which came to independence around about the same time. And some of them were peaceful, and others were less so. Some of the peaceful ones generally went on to become stable and prosperous, and the ones with high levels of violence didn't. And the single most important factor is the caliber and the quality of the politicians and the government that's in place at the time of independence and during the immediate post-independence period.
That is a very worthy point.
Right. So if you have, for example, a country like Botswana, where you had people who were determined to have peace and reconciliation and to build a nation, you have stability, you have all of the conditions to encourage investment, and you have long-term prosperity and growth. If you have a country where the leadership is intent on violence and revenge or oppression, then that country goes off to independence. It's a very, very bad start, and things typically don't recover. So the quality and the caliber of the government in the post-independence years
makes a tremendous difference.
The single most important determinant. The other factor that you raised is the availability of weapons, and of course this is true. If you have a situation where people can chop each other, can throw battery acid on each other, it is the case that you simply cannot kill as many people. Once you have automatic rifles,
yes,
you can kill a very large number, and about 80% of our homicides are carried out using guns. And of course, all of those guns are imported into the country.
Precisely, because we don't make them.
Significant manufacturing of weapons here. So what we have to look at is how these guns get in, and of course, it's not exactly a secret that there has to be a fairly sophisticated level of organization behind shipping weapons and distributing them.
And they enter through ports that are under the control of government agents, and it's not yeah.
That's
I see
right.
the point you're making.
They're coming in shipping containers. Of course, some of them are coming in fishing boats as well, but then it is actually possible to require that all the fishing boats carry transponders so that we can see where they're going. But bringing them in through the ports in containers, that requires a big organization behind it. And there's some big people involved in this. And this is where we have always found it difficult to bring this practice to an end, because there are people who have got wealth and power who want to protect this business.
Okay.
All right.
Prof, I know that you did some work recently in terms of the accord that was reached between the political parties in terms of crime and violence that was signed. What has happened with that? Where is that going? What are your thoughts in terms of why it's not moving forward? Okay, you just made a very significant point in regards to leadership and their ability to drive development, drive reform. What's happening with that?
Well, there was a long drawn-out process of negotiating between the two main political parties to try and build a consensus on the way forward with regards to crime and corruption. And one of the things that has always bedeviled us is the fact that these issues have become the subject of partisan party political feuding. And that has meant that our policies have not been consistent, which is what they need to be. They've been stop, go. And every time there's a change of government, we have a change of policy, and that is not a recipe for success. So with the crime consensus, we managed to build an agreement on some of the core reforms and changes needed, and both parties signed up to this. Now, by and large, we're not doing too badly. We have got 40 points of agreement between the two parties, and there is still agreement on 39 of the 40. We do have a difference of opinion with regard to the SOEs, which we're working on. We're trying to see if there's a solution here, but we are still okay with regard to 39 out of the 40 commitments. And many of the commitments are in fact on track for delivery. Some of the ones, a few, are behind schedule, but we have been told that most of the necessary legislative reforms should be going through in the first half of next year.
May I ask a question, Prof?
Of course.
These 40 points, if I got the number right, are they focused? Are they focused primarily on policing, or do they address those root cause, those social issues which you went through earlier at the community level?
All of the above. You cannot solve the problems with crime and corruption just by looking at policing or just by looking at legislation. You also have to look at people's behavior, human behavior, and you have to think of ways that why do people behave in this way, and what can we do to change it? And
So
you
my-
have to look at the social and the physical infrastructure. You have to look at the way that we allowed the creation of the garrison constituencies, and we have to find ways to undo some of the damage that's been done. We have to find ways to shut off the flow of guns, and we have to find ways to trace the proceeds of crime
So
and recover those assets from criminals.
Well, I think on the policing side and on the legislative side, there are a number of things that we can easily identify as, being among the deliverables. But what could you encourage our listeners with now
No hiding
as
fruit.
as the things we can see as being evidence of delivery on those social points?
Well, let me just talk quickly about the policing side as well.
Mm-hmm.
We need more police. We need better trained police. We need better paid police. And we need police who are thoroughly versed and understand the importance of human rights as a foundation for policing.
Is there an agreement that we need better paid police? Is because the response to the police agitation for increased wages and better conditions of work seem to be falling on deaf ears. Is there an agreement?
There is actually. I mean, yes, of course, there's a lot of. There's still going to be a lot of arguing about details, but the general idea that we need more police, better trained police, better equipped police, and we need to invest much more in intelligence and policing technology is a bipartisan commitment. And of course, there's going to be arguments about some of the details, but in general terms, that is the direction in which we're going. Now, with the social issues, this is much, much more difficult because we're coming into an extremely messy situation. We have been spending, for many years now, we've been spending huge sums of money on social intervention. Over the last 10, 15 years, the amount of money being spent on social intervention has been running at about 40% of the budget for the Ministry of Education, which is one of our big spending ministries. And most of these interventions have had no effect because the level of violence has not come down. So we looked into this. CAPRI in particular did a lot of research on this. What they found is that with most of the social interventions we have done in this country, there has been no proper monitoring, there's been no proper evaluation, and they never did a baseline study. So it's actually very hard to even pick out.
So it's entirely possible that the intervention did not actually take place as in the way that it needed to be executed.
Are running from the seat of our pants.
In some cases, what we have seen is interventions where pretty much all the money got taken up in paying people, putting people on the payroll and paying consultants.
Right,
really
that's
not very much actually
Going to
got
work on the ground.
That
That's
is true.
That's my
But the
suspicion.
thing is that I don't want to give you the impression that they're all bad. They're not all bad. Some of them are actually very good, but the problem is we don't have the data to even tell the good ones from the bad ones. And so one of the things that we urgently need to do is to have a proper systematic monitoring framework so that we can say if this intervention is going to bring down the level of violence, then we need to be able to see a reduction in the level of homicide. And if we're not seeing that, we need to defund that program and take the money and put
And put it into something else that works.
Is actually working. Yes.
So is that body of effort underway now?
Just getting started.
Just getting started. All right. I want to make.
We hope to be getting starting another program of research into this and identifying the root causes of violence sometime in the first half of next year.
I want to connect two dots and then ask a question of you.
Sure.
In Scripture, it is acknowledged that faith without works is dead. And if you pray for a man who is hungry and tell him, go forth, the Lord will provide, but you give him no food, you would have done nothing for him. That's my paraphrasing. When I think about the social interventions, I realize that we're doing a lot of things in the realm of really talking to people, is how I would put it. You know, counseling and coaching, and
Changing their minds.
but at the end of the day, we are not really giving them better access to capital. We're not giving them the
Right.
skills to run businesses.
Right.
We're not giving them the opportunities to move themselves from one level of dependence to a state of independence. I know that the history of slavery, the way we phrased it earlier, did not feature as a motive cause in your research. But there is, with the history of slavery comes the history of no access to capital, no ownership of land, low self-esteem, and confusion about identity and so on.
Right.
Is there anything in the 40 points of agreement that would speak to some real change in that area of things?
Well, there is an agreement and general understanding that there is no point in trying to bring about change which is not transformative. There is no point in doing any of this if we don't bring about a substantial and permanent change in people's circumstances. You have to give people a chance of a decent life. You have to look at the pattern of repeated trauma and violence and abuse. You have to find ways to break that pattern. And in particular, you have to look at ways to protect the children. Let me be very, very clear. This is not very nice to say, but your best chance of success is if you focus on children.
Absolutely, we say that here.
You know, by the time people are late teens, early 20s, and they're already steeped in violence, the chances of success
Diminish.
are very low, extremely low. So you have to start. All of the successful programs around the world, and we're not the only country that's had to face problems like this. All the really successful ones are the ones which actually start by focusing on, first, maintain the peace, and second, you focus on the primary school children. And you try and raise a new generation in different values. And if you can do that, you can transform the situation. But then you have to understand that this is a 25-year program. This is not This is
Of
a
course, because
generational program.
it's a generation ahead. It's the
Yeah.
same thing we've been saying here earlier. We were saying that we plan for the grandchildren. We're not planning for our children.
Yeah, that's
we're,
right.
We're planning for
And-
our grandchildren.
Now, this is difficult for politicians to grapple with because, of course, they want something that's going to
Their lives-
produce results before
Yeah.
they
Yes.
Yeah, their
Before the
lifespan
next
is 5
election.
years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or you want or you renew the ZOSO and you give it a
Yes.
60-day extension. You
Right.
can't do much in 60 days.
21 days.
Okay.
Right. By law, it's 14 days for a.
One question. So, Prof, what I'm hearing you saying is that there needs to be a major shift in terms of policy, and with policy in terms of where you put your resources, if we're going to get real transformation that's going to change us going forward. Is that what you're saying?
We can do that, yes. Yes, I have no doubt about this at all. If we have a clear understanding of what the problems are, what's required to change them, and how long that's going to take, we can do all of this.
Okay.
And of course, there's going to be some cost involved, but then, as we were saying earlier, the cost of crime and corruption is at between 5 and 10% of our GDP. Now, if we can fix this problem, I assure you, it's going to the cost will be a lot less than the benefits, because the benefits are that you'd see this country move onto a high growth trajectory. Throughout the 1950s and 1960s, Jamaica was averaging around about 4% growth per annum. And after the violence got really bad in the 70s and the 80s, we fell. We went into a 13-year recession. We came out, but ever since then, our growth rate has averaged less than 1%. If we can get back onto a 4.5% growth track, which is where we were, then in a few years' time, you'd see this country absolutely transformed. If we had not descended into crime and violence, we today, the country, the economy would be anywhere from 3 to 10 times bigger than it is now. That is actually what we threw away with the descent into violence.
You know,
That is what we're fighting for.
Professor, what I hear very clearly from, what I've read about you and what we're discussing this morning, it seems to me that we need to shift the policy and the execution or implementation of these strategies. We need to depoliticize them. We need to take them out of the hands of politicians and any kind of short-term thinking place, and handle it from a more long-term, stable perspective, where it's just the business of the country that's getting done, and it's not politics. Yesterday we talked about taking politics out of crime. Crime and violence is not a political issue. There are some players and some actors in it that are of political stripe, but the truth of it is it's not political, and it really should not be handled. There's too much politics in every part of our national life, and that's an awful reality. I want to shift focus with you because we only have a few more minutes, and I so enjoyed your thinking on where we will be in 2050. For the moment, I wouldn't even look at the built environment or the natural environment and some of those challenges. I want to talk about food security and some of the strategies. Yesterday we had quite a few of our callers bemoaning the fact that our use of land policy seems to be taking a lot of the arable agricultural land and putting it into other uses. Just kind of give me your ABCs on what we ought to be doing now, because I think persons are in a mood to invest and to do something that is will be impactful.
Well, okay. As you know, after the COP26 meeting, we are now on course for something like a 2.5 degree rise in world temperature. Now that is going to have really profound consequences for every aspect of our way of life, including, of course, food and water security. So what we've been doing is looking at the new technologies in the pipeline to see if any of them may offer us hope. And there are some very exciting new technologies in areas like, for example, our production of food. Now, the new technologies are really very technically advanced, but they're not fundamentally difficult to understand. Instead of growing protein, for example, in animals, which is what we do now, animals eat grass and then we eat
And then we eat the meat.
and then we eat the meat. This is an incredibly inefficient conversion inefficiency. With beef, for example, it's something like a 40-to-1 conversion inefficiency. And so the idea is that what you do is you take cells from animals, you grow them in a tissue culture medium, and you produce meat. You know, it is actually meat. The only difference is it's been grown in a tissue culture medium. And even more advanced is the idea of manufacturing proteins directly. Now, it means that potentially we can feed all of humanity for something like 0.5% of the land that we require now, and maybe 2 or 3% of the water that agriculture does now.
I'm glad you're excited about that one. That's so frightening to me.
You may find this a little bit hard to grapple with now because it's new.
I know. We still, listen,
when you get your processed food, you won't actually know the difference.
precisely.
You won't actually know the difference. The taste and look at those things is going to be exactly different in the end. It's actually better for you. There'll be no contaminants.
All right. What's your second? And I'm not disagreeing. Of course, there are no things which I take process from now because I need to be any different. I always remember a friend of mine visiting from London, and I fished ahead on it. And it was just intrigued, literally. Okay. So the days come.
Okay, that's transport. And then towards autonomous vehicles. That is a game changer. Because if you have autonomous vehicles, then you can probably successfully before 80% of all of the vehicles off the roads. And still all the people don't take
Yes. That looks
autonomous runs 24/7. And you don't actually have to know because push an firefighter. It'll take you and then it'll go off and move somebody else. So I realize that the move to autonomous transport will be revolutionary for the future of mobility. And that will, of course, mean that many people are currently employed in the very inefficient mode of transport that we have now will have to move on to other forms of employment. And this, to me, is one of the greatest challenges of the years ahead. There's going to be a huge amount of retraining involved to move people into areas where they can still add value. But this is inevitable. This happens every time our technology advances. We create new jobs and we destroy old jobs.
That's us. Yeah.
And I'm hoping that if Jamaica sees this as an opportunity, then Jamaica could actually position itself to be one of the advanced, the
leaders. Yeah.
Absolutely, I'd love to see that.
All right, Professor, I'm going to ask you to just hold for a little bit, so we can take care of some housekeeping on our side. It's entirely possible that when we return, we'll just do a wrap up with you, but just bear with us for a minute or two. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll be right back. What happened?
During a service, right?
Yes.
On air? and welcome back to the Morning Connection. Our guest this morning is Professor Anthony Clayton. We're just going to wrap up that conversation with him now. Professor Clayton, still there? Hello? Are you still there, Professor Clayton?
Yes,
Oh, good.
yeah.
All right. Before we take our leave, may I just ask, how many positions are you currently serving the government of Jamaica now? I saw so many of them.
Far too many. I actually wrote down the number
Yes.
when I had to, when I was updating my CV a few months ago,
Mhm.
and it ran to about half a page. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
But I am trying to, all the committees I've served on, but I am trying to reduce the number, because you have to, all of us have only got 24 hours in the day, and you have to decide how to allocate your time, because you want to make a difference in the world. You want to try to make people's lives better, and so you have to try to focus on what you think will make the most difference.
So my follow-up question is, I thought of like 6, but if it's half a page, then it's really well more than 6. My question is, how are you transferring some of the specialized knowledge that you have into local hands so that we can be independent? Because you are, I hear a burr in your accent. Where are you from originally?
Well, I'm Jamaican now. I've lived in this country nearly a quarter of a century.
Ah, that's a
But,
whole generation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I have also graduated over 50 PhDs.
Mm-hmm. Ah,
And so these are people who have worked with me intensively for
that
years.
is the transfer of knowledge.
Absolutely. No, I feel very comfortable
Yeah.
that that things will be in good hands.
All right. I think
one of the greatest responsibilities we have is we have to pass on the knowledge. We have to think to the next generation and the generation beyond that, and try and make this world a better place.
we agree with you on that, absolutely. And I want to thank you, Professor, for taking the time to speak with us this morning. I know that you are working on some very important areas in national life, and we continue to have very high hopes that we will see the kind of change taking place. But more than anything else, we know that we as Jamaicans have to step in and take responsibility for becoming the change that we want to see. So thank you for your influence and for your contribution.
And thanks, even because as
Thank
we've been
you for inviting
pushing,
me.
Professor, we're just pushing for a new consensus in terms of how we're going to move this country forward. And we say to people, simple things like honor, respect, love in terms of what we do, that will bring a consensus, because we don't have consensus, I believe, about many issues that we need to just move from in terms of crime and violence, corruption as a nation. Thank you very much for coming. Really appreciate the time that you have shared with us this morning. Bless you.
Thank you for inviting me. Much appreciated. Bye-bye.
All right. Goodbye. All right. Do we need a station break? No, we don't. We're good.
Okay.
All right. So, Pastor Percival, thank you for organizing that.
Because I think, and what we've been saying to a lot of persons, and you need to mix the passion with the knowledge. Because when he began to say to us in regards to what is happening, what we need to do in terms of just tracking what has happened, the raw data. Because when you're making decisions, you don't have a good feeling about this. What is the data saying? Because the data should drive decisions in terms of how we're going to bring about real transformation. So we're just trying to do a wonderful balance between saying people need to do something, but in order to do something, you have to shift the way you're thinking based on the information
All
and
right.
the data that you have.
Our guest at table has arrived.
Good morning.
Good morning, Janice.
How are you guys doing?
I am very well. Is the mic okay for our guest? Hearing her nicely.
How
You
are
look beautiful, and I see you and Pastor Percy were.
Thursday.
Thank you very much. I see you and Pastor Percival were in the same wardrobe this morning.
She didn't tell her. We didn't tell her. Right.
Well, the producer and I were in the same wardrobe, red and white. Welcome, Janice. Janice, what's your surname?
Carby.
So, with us at table, Janice Carby. She is responsible for all things marketing and dynamic service at the Legany Club, and we're very pleased to have her sitting with us. We've been coming here for weeks, and they've been giving us pretty smiles and waves, and of course making sure we're okay. But this is the first time that our Legany Club sponsor is actually sitting with us. So, good morning to Janice.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and you see we have your, it has its own camera, your banner. So, okay, perhaps it may be a good idea to start with just your outlining the amenities and the wonderful services that are available at the Legany Club.
Okay, well, of course, our Legany Club is a members club, but it's not exclusive to members, of course. We do have a dynamic product where we have 38 guest rooms, we have conference room facilities, we have 8 tennis courts, 6 squash courts. We do have a swimming pool and we do have a gym. So you sign up as a member and you get access to all the facilities. However, we welcome our non-members to use the conference facilities, the guest rooms. We do have a lovely restaurant and bar. And so
I can attest to that.
You want a lime on a Friday evening, a Saturday evening, you pop into the bar, you have a nice drink with a couple of your friends.
And I always emphasize that we have plenty safe parking.
Oh, we
Yeah,
certainly
it's-
do. I mean, you
which
pass
is a
the
rarity.
barriers and you park and you're safe.
Yeah. So, how do non-members access the facilities here?
Somebody would say, "Can you just walk off the road and say, I want to have lunch or I want to have breakfast," that kind of thing.
Oh, most definitely. So we do have a security guard located at the main gate, and each person coming through will state exactly where the purpose of their visit to the club. So if you want to use the restaurant, then you just say, "Hey, I'm here to JD's Urban Pub, and I want to have lunch or dinner."
Okay.
And then they would direct you to the parking for JD's. And
Okay.
then from there you can, JD's has its own entrance.
Okay.
You're seated.
Oh,
Right? So
I thought this was the entrance to JD.
well, the entrance, JD's have their own parking.
Okay.
They have
Okay.
their own parking.
Okay.
So patrons just easily park, and then they can just walk straight into the restaurant.
Okay.
Or bar.
All right.
And the restaurant does have a ramp for disabled,
Yes,
so you can
yes.
enter.
For their convenience,
We are
of course, there's a
compliant.
ramp there.
Or do we need to share a mic? Yeah. Okay, we're not here. Oh, we missed all of what Janice said already.
Oh, hello.
Yeah. All right. So do we need to start over, or we're good to go? All right. I'm looking at the board and seeing the beautifully decorated conference room, and then I see the hotel rooms as well.
Right.
How are you rated in terms of your hotel product,
Well,
the room product? Let's call it that.
rating on Booking.com is our platform. So we average at a 7.9 out of 10, which is pretty good. Our rooms are very clean, we have, different categories. We do have standard rooms, superior rooms, we have king suites as well. As stated before, it's 38 rooms in total. Basic amenities, microwave, refrigerator, coffee and tea. The ladies clean every day. We do abide by the COVID-19 protocols mandated by the ministry, of course. Our guests we offer our guests the cleaning facility where they don't have to have a housekeeper coming in every day. They can request every other day or every 2 days.
Right, to
because
limit,
of to limit interactions. So we try
absolutely.
to work best with our
That's
guests.
interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. And I happen to know that this is a very family friendly environment,
Very much so.
and also age friendly.
We do.
You're not too old to be here, right? You're not too young.
Well, I mean, that we've just spoken about our non-members visiting the club. Of course, we welcome everyone. As it relates to members, though, right? So we do have different membership categories. We have family membership, individual, we have corporate.
Okay.
And right. So we do have the different membership categories. You just graduated, there is a membership category for you.
That
So
is
we
affordable
try to-
and
it is
yeah,
affordable.
yeah.
It is affordable.
Yeah.
Right. So
The idea is when you enter here, you should leave as a member.
that is yes.
That's the idea.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the idea.
It's a wonderful product.
It really
Very
is.
wonderful product. Very relaxing, very safe.
And I know that we have coaches in residence who will cover if you've never played tennis and you want to learn. Not a bad place to
Oh,
do it.
most
We have the
definitely. We
practice
have-
wall. Not many places you go and you see a practice wall for tennis.
Yes.
That's a practice wall over there that looks like a half
I
target.
thought it was a target wall.
No.
Ski shooting, you
No,
go
it's
out and
a
do
practice.
something
No,
like
it's
that.
it is the practice
Oh,
wall
I
for
see.
tennis.
I hear you.
Not many places you go to and you can find that. 6 tennis courts. We said that already, no?
8 tennis courts.
8? Oh, 2
Eight,
more.
Right. 6 squash courts.
And 6 squash
And
courts.
we do have coaches for each area: tennis, squash, and the gym.
Yep, and a lovely little pro shop where you can get your sundry supplies. And you see how much I know about it? Who thinks I'm a member?
You don't think we know?
Been a member for
Well, I mean, let me just mention one thing else as well. If you're not sure if you want to be a member of the club, then we have what's called a special membership, where you can just sign on for 1 month. You, of
Okay.
course, you complete the form as you would normally. We just have a quick meet, and then we can start you right away, just for 1 month.
So if you're in the country on a special assignment or whatever you're doing,
For any
and you
week.
just want a short-term membership,
We do have
yeah.
persons who often travel and they just want somewhere to go, something to do that is relaxing, that's out of the office.
Okay.
And they will come in and say, hey, how is it that I can be a member of this club? I'm only here for 3 weeks.
Okay.
So we sign you up for a month, and then you can determine. from
That's a
that.
great corporate
Right, we
type
do. It's-
product.
And it's, I must say, it's the season, so we would offer that as well as a nice little Christmas gift.
Oh, that's a
Okay.
People
great
sign up
idea.
and want to give
I'm gonna,
membership for the
I'm
month.
as my favorite sponsor. I'm gonna ask you to give me one as a giveaway,
Yeah.
and I'll do something on the program so someone could earn.
Okay.
And
Sounds
we
good.
just yeah
That sounds
yeah
good.
that could be
That
a nice
sounds good.
promotion. 30 days membership at the Ligony Club,
Right.
and I'll beg the squash or the tennis pro to throw in 1 or 2 lessons.
And we can talk more about
Yes.
that. That's for sure.
I'll
Sounds good.
I'll do some begging. Did I tell you I don't beg? I'm going to beg.
So we have this joke when we talk about prayer, because I'm a pastor, and I said, somebody called in and says, what is another word for prayer? And I
Could the
said,
word beg be
Jesus.
substituted for pray?
I said yes, and if you tell you, who will tell you for God? So she promptly jumped on me.
I did
do not beg.
not jump on you.
But-
Please, my
but-
husband is here.
she politely asks.
I was listening to him. I was listening to him with great interest, and he said this, and then I said, not for me. For me,
No,
no.
babe.
But I don't, and
I understand, but no.
But
Producer
today,
Era,
I'm going to
She's
for
gonna be begging. She's gonna pray. I tell you, can you do that for me?
No, what I'm offering to do for one lucky listener of the Morning Connection, Janice will very kindly contribute one of her special,
So you ask
30
her.
day. If she's
kindly
she's earned
consented.
it.
I'm going to, yes.
She has earned it. She's a great sponsor of our show. She has earned the right to a promotion. So a lucky listener can get a 30 day.
Yeah, so I come and enjoy all
Come and see what the club is about,
Wonderful.
and see,
Salubrious
absolutely.
sounds. Hey.
And then because so what drew me here, I'll talk about that separately, because Janice will tell us about the networking opportunities with club membership. What drew me here, of course, was to network. Young professional, Justice Carey of blessed memory. You wouldn't have met him because he died before you joined the staff. Justice Carey was the one who said to me, a new lawyer, come, and he proposed me for membership. I have over time done the same for other young professionals, because here you will meet people of every stripe, and you'll meet the very best of who's doing what. And that's one of the important things about
Right.
a members club.
Right.
The second thing what kept me here now is the squash. I am an avid squash player, and the community, the squash community, the friendships, and of course the game itself is just addictive. So if you take your 30-day membership, then it would be good to be exposed to a game that might prove to be a lifelong partner.
That's kind of
Squash
fun.
or tennis,
Squash
because
is
I know
when
you
hit the ball.
want
It
the small black ball that you hit against the wall.
And run up and down.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So the
And you
dog-
want tennis. You wanted tennis lessons.
I was talking to Loggett.
So maybe he'll win the 30 day.
Really now,
Oh, and here comes the general manager, the big man himself. Jenny's just borrowing the chair. Yes, because we're about to talk about the networking opportunities that a private club membership offers. And before you hear it on air and ask Janice if she loses her mind, I have pulled out of her a complimentary 30-day membership, which I will offer to one of our lucky listeners. We'll ask some questions, maybe about the Ligani Club. That might be it, to be sure that they were listening to the
Listen to
interview. Like, how many rooms are available for rental at the Ligani Club? How many tennis courts? Absolutely. So let me give the numbers again. Janice, you do it. How many rooms?
38 rooms, 8 tennis courts, 6 squash courts.
All right. So we'll ask questions like that and see if we can.
Questions for us.
What's the
Double
trick?
answering them. Let me just
Give me one.
Let me officially welcome you to the club first of all.
Thank
You've been
you.
with us probably about 2 months now.
Yes,
We're
we've got
finally
about.
showing ourselves to your audience. Welcome, and of course, good morning and season's greetings both to your listeners and your viewers online.
Yeah, well, I'd give them your name already. They'll let you get and give them as your height.
I won't share.
So you've been well introduced. But
Thank you.
thank you so much too for your support.
So we appreciate the partnership. It's
yeah.
brought a new vibe to the club, and we appreciate it.
I'd
We're
like to
glad
think so.
We're glad to
Yeah.
see that things have improved over the Christmas season. We're a little
Excellent.
nervous still to a certain degree. Maybe realistic, less than pessimistic about what January is going to bring. Things have been challenging for the club, but certainly people are anxious to get out, and people are vaccinated or getting out.
And
They're
this is
enjoying-
an excellent place
They're enjoying the
to get
facility,
to.
they're
Yeah.
enjoying the sports, they're enjoying the camaraderie. And I'm glad to see Jamaicans are coming home to see their families as the country is slowly opening up. It's been welcome. There's definitely a new vibe in the club. It was a very lonely place last year.
I can imagine, because some people have to be here every day.
Some had to be here every day, and people are thinking, "Oh, it's easy for you now." No, it's hard.
No,
It's hard. It's a lot
yeah,
of work to
yeah.
keep things running and turning for sure.
And to be ready for the one or two members who come in on Saturday morning.
Literally. And some are coming
Yeah.
at 5 o'clock on a Thursday morning as well. I wonder
That's
what that
it. Testing. I was saying earlier that have you had any complaints about our noise making?
None whatsoever.
Oh, thank you for
I'm
being.
aware of. Have you had any?
Nope, not at all.
No, we've tried
We'll
to be
bring them to your
discreet, but
attention.
it's been really good that we've been here, and we've just been so welcome, both by the members who come in early to exercise, and not one person. Some have stood by and looked curiously, and I wave and they wave back, but I've not felt any hint of disfavor or rejection. And
wouldn't expect
I compliment you for bringing us in a manner that has been acceptable to the Ligani Club family. I know that family can be dysfunctional and difficult. I have seen them.
Functioning unit for sure.
Yes, I have seen them misbehave. So
Let me
thank
ask
you
about
for
Liggett Club.
bringing
How's
us in.
breakfast been? I noticed you guys enjoying it after the show. Should I be
All
telling
right.
you
So much so that have you noticed that Lowell and I have been coming here in the week for breakfast?
Yeah, that's a good thing.
And yes, yeah, because we've had breakfast here now. For this week alone, we've been back here like three times. This morning would be the third
Yes.
breakfast. Yeah.
So we have to pick up
The
JD
food
for
is
that.
excellent, yes, and I'm hoping JD will, but JD kind of shy. Let me
Nah,
say it now.
Once you get him talking, it doesn't stop.
Well, I shall discover that then, because no, the food has been excellent, and I've noticed that the breakfast crowd has got. It's on a bigger and bigger. Every Thursday we come, we're seeing more persons, which explains it too. So No, we've had a very good experience here with the pub, both in terms of the service and the quality of the food.
So glad to hear.
Yes, and we had a guest on speaking about meat being grown in the lab. Just
and
now,
it's
in the
currently up
future.
online. You watching it?
Yes, well, some of for me disturbing.
Yeah,
but
I wouldn't be- I wouldn't be
I
watching
don't
that.
want any corn pork that's been grown in a lab.
Not at all.
I want my
No,
corn pork
sir.
out of the peel with the pimento leaf brush off of it.
No,
So, but no, it really has been good. So
So
thank
glad
you
to
for
hear.
that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, so
Yeah,
tell us now what's going on for the Christmas that we can promote on your
I'm gonna
behalf.
hand it over to Jan. You're capable.
Oh, yes,
of
that's
her.
true. Jan
A lot
is
of what
the-
She will discuss her own.
Yes,
own
yes.
Concept, so.
Yeah, you keep the ship in the water and she keeps
Yeah,
it
exactly. I mean,
fun.
she's not going too crazy.
And she keeps it
stays
fun.
every day, for sure.
All right, so to our listeners, that's Mr. Gareth Walker, who is the current general manager of the club, and of course, they are one of our baseline sponsors for Thursday mornings. We really thank him, and you're going to leave now, or you'll make sure.
Kick him out,
I'm not kicking you out. Just let's make sure that Janice does her job. All right, you're on show now, Jan.
Great. So
What's special for the
special
holidays?
for Christmas season, of course, as I mentioned before, as a gift, you could offer someone a special membership. We have the certificates. You just call us in, give us information, and then that would be a wonderful stocking stuffer. Of course,
Can it
for
be
this
purchased
season.
online? Because we have some listeners online who might want to send something for a family member. I'm just suggesting, guys.
You mean to
purchase this-
it
the
online?
certificate,
we
yeah.
could offer our banking details.
Ah,
That
okay.
Can be
And-
paid via wire transfer, of course, and they could email us at salesmanager@theligoneclub.com, or they could just call us directly on 926.
Make the arrangement. So what does the price look like for that?
Pardon?
What's the pricing like for
That's
that?
15,000 for the month.
Oh,
the
that's
1 month
excellent.
membership. The 1 month membership.
Okay.
Right.
15 flat, no GCT or
That's it,
inclusive
just
of
flat.
GCT.
That is it.
Perfect.
That is it.
All right. So
that is a wonderful gift idea.
and that
Introduce
gives
them
you
to
access to the tennis courts, to the squash courts, all the amenities of
the
a full
swimming pool, the
membership.
gym.
Right. And your 10% discount at JD's.
They just have to show their membership card, and they will get their discount at the restaurant.
And
of
then if
course.
they want to renew and extend,
they just
all
visit
of
my
that
office,
is-
just
all
speak
right.
to me, and we can just work something out.
I love that actually. That's a very innovative approach to both promoting the club and giving
Right.
We
value.
should also remind you it's actually 15% as well. It's 15% on the news and 10% on some of the
Oh,
services. yeah.
Right.
So there's actually a better benefit.
There is,
The other thing is that
yes.
if you take out an annual membership, the monthly cost is significantly reduced, depending on the category of membership.
Of my, which you, right, because there's the
Right.
family.
So I spoke
She
about the
went through
categories
that.
earlier. So depending on your category, then we will just apply it to that. If you sign up as an individual, a family membership, as I said before, you just graduating from college. You are in college. We can facilitate that type of membership for
Mm-hmm.
you. So we try to work with our clients. We try to.
Or your
the best.
parents are members and you're now an adult and need to step out on your own.
You need to sign up your own membership as an
Well,
adult.
that's
Okay. Yeah, because
You know.
that's the beginning of things. All right, I
I
think
think I should point out that as a college student, we know things are tight. So you need to budget your ramen noodles. And your
your club membership.
That's interesting.
All right, thank you very much for dropping in and visiting with us.
Thank you. We appreciate you again.
I would keep you and talk some politics with you, but that wouldn't be
That
fair.
should be off air, I think.
Off air.
That
Thank you
wouldn't
all.
be fair. Thanks, Gareth and Jan.
That's okay.
It was great being here. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, we're in your house, so it's only fitting that you enjoy it.
All right, then. That's it. But thanks to Gareth and Jan for stopping by. We do appreciate it, and our partnership will continue into the future. But online,
Speak it into being.
what has been happening when Professor Clayton
Clayton.
spoke on about the future, because the future is in terms of, that's why I wrote those articles. What do we need to do now to prepare for the world as it will be in 2050? They spoke about the whole thing of warming and what that means. He brought the idea of about food and was of course talking about if if instead of doing the production, grass eating, you do it in the lab. You know, they've tried it in the States. There's a company like that, and the people don't like it.
No, but it's not for this generation. Remember, I said we're planning for the future. All right, so a very important question. Yes, somewhere in the background, you can see a part of the swimming pool. The swimming pool is right there behind us.
Oh, Taki-san.
Somebody's in. All right, so, you know, I loved speaking to Professor Clayton, and you know I am not a lady who passed judgment. But can I tell you, our continued reliance on experts who don't share some things with us that are fundamental and necessary for an empathetic treatment of present day issues is a part of our problem. I take nothing from the excellence of his work or even of his heart, but when I asked him about, when I shared with him the comment about the past of slavery and so on, and he said that when they look at
It's the data.
that has nothing to do with it, I just sort of, that gave me a certain understanding. Let me put it that way. But you know, he has said that 50 PhD students have passed through his hands. And, well, you know, those are not clones, but the process and the education and the knowledge. Let us hope that those persons who are out there in the field can now apply their own heart and instinct to addressing some of what is going
Let me
on.
ask that question though,
Sure.
just to play advocate. There are a lot of things that happen that we speak to what has been our colonial past. All right, and we acknowledge that that is so. But as somebody who has worked in industry, manufacturing, and so on, when you are making decisions, some of the times you have to look back at the data and then says, okay, this is what the data says, but how do we now time with what we know is happening in terms of the psychological being of the persons? I would want to say that's the data. So the data says that we began to see this phenomenon emerge after certain critical moment, causal issues according to him. So how do we tie that back in terms of what has happened to us psychologically in terms of moving forward? Because I'm going to suggest to you that if we were doing better in terms of the economy and a lot of things, some of the problems that have come to the fore that would not be so very prevalent. What do you think? Data says,
All right,
I'm to leadership, he acknowledged
yes,
the point.
but I'm going to take you further back, Percy. It is not, it's not even, it is absurd to think that because you have not studied a thing, it does not exist. Data is no more than an answer to the questions you've asked. Data doesn't address the unasked question. Right here, I would say I rest my case.
No,
but
no,
I suspect that won't be enough for you.
No, that is not. I
So-
agree. So we are agreed we are agreed that slavery has had an impact in terms of our functioning and so on. We are agreed. That is there. But
We're not agreed because you're saying we are driven by the data and the data says there's no relationship.
No, I'm not saying that.
You say we're driven by the data.
No,
The
I'm saying
data
the
that the
data,
gentleman
no.
spoke of says, the data that we've gathered from the field points to other things. That's not there.
No, there points to other things. It might be there, but it's not a major factor. Okay, go ahead. Spoils the leadership.
Leadership is just one component. He says the quality. He says the quality of leadership, the quality and caliber of leadership has made a distinct difference in countries that were determined to succeed in a particular way versus countries that wanted to be angry and keep fighting. Jamaica is a country that wanted to be angry and keep fighting.
I don't know about that.
I'm asking you.
But let us examine it. Let us do the research.
No.
We say that.
So all right. Now, the problem you and I will have this morning is that if all questions require us to go out and conduct the study before we know what we think, then we'll have no answers. So let's table that. Let's table that discussion. I expressed a viewpoint, namely that Jamaica's continued reliance on external experts who lack empathy or may lack empathy is a part of our problem. That's what me say. What do you think?
No.
You say no. All right. No
but,
problem.
No, because some of the times, like even in terms of organizational change, if you're in a situation all the time,
So it's not a part of our problem.
it could be a part of the problem.
Yeah, but I said it's a part of the problem. You said no.
No, but the person has been here for the last 25 years.
We're not
and
talking
Jamaica
about
system.
him.
Oh, okay. Right. Because you raised that point in relation to what he said.
I raised that point in relation to the differences that appear to be operative in this circumstance. Think of it. We've had some high level non-Jamaican. We've had some high level British experts in the policing in the high occupying advisory positions in security.
And what was their and what did they advise in terms of?
I don't know what they advised. What the point of the matter is, we have not progressed. What has happened is we've had escalating levels of violence, and and elsewhere we rely heavily on foreign consultants and so on and so forth in almost every sphere of activity that we undertake here.
Okay. Are you saying there's no value to that, or you're
No.
saying,
I said
all right.
a part of.
A part of.
And
Okay.
you said no, which meaning it's not a part of. I said a part of, you said no. But it's something that we need to discuss and we need to consider. How do we're not born knowing, and some of the knowledge and the expertise that we need is outside of our shores.
That's true.
So we have to bring people
so
in.
incorporate them and
So
says,
it's
okay,
how
this
we.
is what I'm saying.
how
What
we-
are you thinking? Looking at it with different
Yeah.
eyes. So that's the important part
That's
of
the
solution.
conversation I wanted to open up,
Okay.
and not at all to object to. I mean, Professor Clayton
Jamaican.
and he is Jamaican. He says he's a Jamaican, has been here for 25 years.
And it's Jamaican with sons and so on. Yeah.
Right, but fundamentally, he has had a different upbringing and in a different society from the people whose lives he can influence through the work that he does. Now, the question is, are those differences operating to our benefit or against us? That would be the question. I'm not attempting to answer it. I don't know the man, save that I see he has worked on some critical areas, and he himself says he's in too many places.
And he seems to be cutting back.
And my hope is that the Jamaican leaders, planners, whomever it is that feel that we need to keep relying on external resources, that we begin to map our movement to ensuring there's a transfer of knowledge, ensuring that we become capable and operate independently. I know the telephone is on, and I know that if you call us, we will answer. So please remember that the number to call so we can speak with you is 876-361-6583. We've had the pleasure of speaking with the general manager and the marketing manager of the Ligani Club, and we thank them again for allowing us to do this in their garden. Actually, we are in a part of the restaurant, JD's Urban Pub, where you can be fed and watered at your convenience. And you've heard that dining guests are very welcome at the club. Despite it being a private members club, we open up so that persons can come in and dine. And I hope you take the opportunity to bring your family out during the Christmas season and to just, enjoy some of the natural, the ambience. It seems that in the future, with a more crowded environment, places like the club and the opportunity to be outdoors like this will become rare and very treasured. So those of you who have a mind to enjoy it, I say the time is now.
All right. As we reflect on what has happened this
Yeah.
week, I've seen in another quarter where somebody again was commenting on, I think I saw it in the paper, on to say to the Prime Minister that he just need to, you know, have to talk about everything. When he raised the thing about becoming a republic, we must continue. Remember the statement he made, and somebody said, "Oh, geez, man, you don't have to comment on it. Think before you speak, because you just seem to be speaking without even seriously thinking about what you're saying, because it's out there, so I need to comment on it." And come on, really now, because what came out yesterday, and when we were reading the Observer online, AJ Nicholson says that in the Parliament they had reached a consensus and they'd sign off on certain things. And AJ Nicholson is long time vintage, because he was Attorney General and what he was the attorney, he was a Minister of Justice at the same time. And then they split it up when they were like, he said, come on, it's time to move forward, we just need to make decisions. You see this thing about that you started the week with in terms of unity and the importance
Of agreement.
Agreement is a crucial thing, you know. We have done enough studies to see what the problems are. Both parties have signed on to a 40-point plan in terms of how we're going to deal with the crime and violence, how we're going to deal with the corruption. And he quoted figures 5 to 10% of GDP is lost when you think of potential
The impact, the economic impact of violence.
Come on,
crime
can you
and violence.
imagine what would happen
If we could get it right.
if we could get it right?
Yeah.
The time, as somebody said, time come. The time coming.
We see we have to be agreed that the time is now.
Time come now for
Time
us
is
to bring
now.
about change. We can't continue so. And I'm here not going anywhere to live, you know, even though we have the requisite skills to live in other countries. But as Sarah said this morning, come on. Even though
Nowhere
she-
like Jamaica.
Nowhere like Jamaica. The heartstrings are there. Come on, man.
I want to greet my friend from South Africa, or South Africa listener. Nalini has said, she says she's having a cup of Blue Mountain coffee. Well, God bless you for finding some Blue Mountain coffee.
We got international.
And she's giving us good morning from South Africa. But importantly, it is Reconciliation Day in South Africa. It's a
The
public
Truth and
holiday.
Reconciliation Day.
And I want to just say something about that. The Day of Reconciliation is a public holiday in South Africa. It's held annually on the 16th of December. The holiday came into effect in 1995 after the end of apartheid, with the intention of fostering reconciliation and national unity for the country. The day was chosen because it was significant to both Afrikaner and Black African cultures. I don't know the significance of December 16th in each culture. We can research it and find out. But what's important is that in the aftermath of apartheid, both sides, black and white, decided that it was important to commemorate the event by annually celebrating a day. It is a national holiday there. Enjoy your holiday, and Nalini, and enjoy your coffee too. And I hope you have more than one cup. Thank you for supporting us from that distance, and I hope that a few more friends will sign on from the different parts of the world. I'm just checking out some of the comments online, and suffice it to say, one or two listeners did not enjoy Professor Clayton's conversation with us. I can understand why. I really can. And it's not really because of anything wrong that he said or that we said. It's because it really displays a thinking and a perspective that we need to consider carefully as we move forward. It certainly gave me pause. I can tell you that. Did you sense it? It gave me pause. It really did give me pause. For a lot of persons, despite the best intentions that they may have, the output and the impact is perhaps sometimes not even what they desire. and it's not anything really that it's not something that they could change by force of will. It's just like let's say, you know, if when you combine certain ingredients, if an ingredient interacts badly with the others, it's oh, you know, says cake may have been made. It's yes, yeah.
Remember, say be careful
Right.
can bake, you know. So.
Also,
Yes, so that's a problem.
yeah. So you see what I'm saying? And with the best will in the world, it won't be otherwise. And it is something that we need to be very careful of as Jamaicans, taking decisions for ourselves and so on. Some things you just cannot delegate. You just gotta learn the hard way, figuring it out yourself, or you know, acquire. Yeah.
With going through the process with a goal in mind. Because some of the time you're going through the process, enough time you go through things and say, what is for? What is for, Father? And if you understand it is a part of the process to come out as gold, because Jamaica will come out as gold
Of
through
course.
all of the things that are happening, and I want to declare that. We're going to have to come out as gold, but we have to have a unity of purpose, a fixity of purpose, a consensus that says that we have to fix it. People come and help us, but when you fix something for yourself, oh God, man.
Let me say something to you, Percy. Back to your data point. When we analyze Jamaica's experience, and we start with 1962, and we say, as we have a caller who said in the early days he could order his shoes from England and it's delivered and at the post office, and for him those were the halcyon days.
Good old days.
The good old days. When your starting point is 1962, and you are comparing the growth, the 4% growth of that era, with the -1% or the 1%, whatever it is, of current times, you are running the risk of thinking that starting point is a credible place. Now, what would have been measured as growth? I can assure you that nobody was measuring what you and I would have been doing, people that look like us. Growth would be what's going on in the sector, to the money, to the capital, to the things that are of interest to the persons who own the country. The rest of us were part of the statistics.
Okay, I agree with that.
That's my belief.
Okay.
And if not of 1962, certainly of 20 years before that, and 40 years before. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but
It is much the same way now. We have an economy that is being measured based on some markers that do not reflect the life or the experience of the average Jamaican. So, for example, the two Jamaica, everybody find two Jamaica. That really is, you're not a genius to find two Jamaica. Two Jamaica is, some people you might be a genius to find four. But this dichotomy, this, mixed identity that we have, some persons will say that there is an informal economy that keeps pumping away, and that's why we've not had civil unrest.
True.
Some people will say, like Mr. Nigel Clark will get up and say how we experience growth in this quarter, and he's speaking about something that others are looking at the money in their hand and the basket, the empty basket, and saying,
7,000 minimum wage.
yes, and saying, what is he talking about?
And that, my friend, is what I'm saying. You have the data, but you have to look beyond the data, because in social sciences, you always have to use our base case.
So you're now saying we have to look beyond the data.
I said that to you. I'm saying you have the data.
I put it to the witness.
Yeah, I put it to the witness, and I'm saying to you, there's the data.
No, you always have to look beyond the data, because
it says,
yeah, the other
what is
day,
reality?
was it you? Someone laughingly said, we were talking about the whole thing. If a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, did it make a noise? It's the whole thing of Jamaica was sitting here quite fine, and then Christopher Columbus said, I discovered it.
Yeah,
It's the whole thing of the unasked question not being answered, but it would be presumptuous of you to think that the totality of things is what you know, or what you've asked, or what you've considered.
Yeah, Which is why, even in terms of World Bank data, in terms of human at the center, which is not a new concept to me, because God has always had us at the center of His creation. So you have to ask yourself.
So we applaud them for their revelation.
Then just come revelation
go.
in terms of what God has been saying, because
But I told you that an econ teacher gave me a failing mark on a paper that I did, where I argued that the greatest capital was the human capital, and apparently the textbook answer at the time was something else. But I, of course, didn't have the textbook, because let it be known, I was not no well-resourced student with every book that was recommended. I had to choose. If I got a book list with 10 books, I had to choose the most important 2 that my parents could afford to buy.
and then say this is what it is.
Yes.
I understand. But just to go back to what you've been saying though, it is so important that we recognize that what is present in our country at this time are 2 Jamaica. And if you have a country, it's the 80-20 principle. You have 20% of the people possessing 80% of the wealth. The 80% of the persons are the ones that are really affected, and if you are a responsible government and you want for prosperity for all, you have to take those people into serious consideration. What am I doing that I'm lifting up my society? That everybody have as he said, a reasonable way of living. He spoke to that in terms of it and says that.
But that's why I'm telling you, the man said everything that was right.
Yeah.
But if he's been advising, and not if, when you're advising at that level for so long and the impact is negligible, you have to begin to look at how, and I can see he targeted it, the implementation of some of those strategies, the money that is being spent on social intervention, producing little to no result. But anyway, we cannot hold one man responsible for all these ills, and we don't pretend to. Would you believe it, Percy, is almost 10 o'clock, and it looks like the crew is packing up. Are you packing up? And we didn't get one single phone call. I feel that our listeners are malicing us because we are out of studio. They're spiting us by not calling us.
It's kind of different. We have to work this through. But
Yes,
we want
we-
them to respond to what they see happening, where it needs to go. But say me just consistently, I say, I mean, speaking to the patois so they can understand when I said to the Jamaican people that time come, take responsibility. You need to be a part of consensus that's going to move, going to shift, going to break down, destroy a lot of the strongholds that are in our nations and people's mind. You have to remove those in your mind, and the structures that are preventing us as a country from moving forward, so that all of Jamaica, like a man who live up in the mountains, in the Bethel town, I was going to say, but we always refer to, or the man who lives in the inner city. I believe that I can stay in Jamaica, I can thrive, I can prosper, I can live. And whatever it takes, we must do it. We must, as leadership, and we are part of leadership too. The thought leaders in this country, we have to come on and say, we have to do a radical shift. But this was never God's intention for us as a nation.
I told you before that Jamaica is going to be a refuge in years to come. And you know what kind of refuge we're going to be? One of the very natural ones where you can still eat cow that have foot, chicken that have feather, fish that have head, and you can still see things in the way that, you know how you preserve like a museum?
Yeah.
Jamaica will be a living museum.
For the rest of the world.
I speak it.
It
will be a place. Absolutely. Yes, yes, I think so.
Because guess what? It
I
will
think
be a
so.
place of peace and love.
It has to be. There has to be something like that. Right. Earl Brown has spoken my mind online. He says there were 2 Jamaica before 1962, and there are still 2 Jamaica in 2021. Maybe 3 or 4 if you count it right. But that is a reality.
Yeah.
That's a reality. We got to figure out how we handle. I love the engagement with the listeners. I am missing it too. Yesterday, one of our listeners said Thursday get a little depressing because we don't get to speak. And
would work online and they said,
Yeah.
I miss this program.
yeah,
It's
so
happening here."
I gonna figure, listen to me, man. Next show, we gotta be on top of this thing, because I would have loved to speak with our listeners on, what we were learning in the conversation with Professor Clayton, what it says about us, what we need to change, and some things that we can do differently.
Something that we have to do different.
And I'm really glad that we took the call with Sarah first, because Sarah is a breath of fresh air. Is one woman doing what she can and just doing it with heart. And if you join her, she welcome you, but if you don't join her, she'll be continuing.
So to the nation,
Those who
so
want to
to-
join her, absolutely.
So to the nation.
So to the nation, as in SEW, not SOW.
Yeah.
SEW, like you're stitching with a needle. So to the nation at yahoo.com. Mr. Producer, thank you for the wrap-up signal, but thank you for all of the support and the work that makes this possible. So to Engineer Andre,
Was with us in the house today.
who shared with us here. Pastor Percy, thank you so much, especially for arranging two very interesting guests for us to speak with today. And to the listeners, those online, those on air, we thank you as always. Our official Christmas show will then be on the 23rd. We'll be here at the Ligony Club, and I will make sure that we have the ability to speak to you. Have a blessed day, as we say so long, and have a great weekend. Did I hear music coming in? As they try to cut me off. I have 6 minutes. Yeah, were you hearing Professor Clayton? You were hearing him?
Wish for all mankind, a world to make in Christmas time. Where there is no snow, where the good sense of neither grow. Oh, I wish that we could find true love at Christmas time. Don't have to be concerned, show some love and let the peace might burn. Oh, I wish for all mankind, a world to make in Christmas time. Where there is no snow, where the good sense of neither grow. Oh, I wish that we could find true love at Christmas time. Don't have to be concerned, show some love and let the peace might burn. Where we can party all the night away, or enjoy the beaches where all the lovers stay. You can take a swim and wash your tears away. Yeah, jamming in the sun just like Bob Marley said. Oh, I wish for all mankind a world to make in Christmas time. Where there is no snow, where the good sense of neither grow. Oh, I wish that we could find true love at Christmas time. Don't have to be concerned, show some love and let the peace might burn.
Relax in all the soul and drink a red stripe beer. Drink a puff up on me, smoking on the air. And listen reggae music on the old barber here. I look back in a life and I give thanks to be here. Consider myself lucky, although me shoes here. Enough of me come